It's 9 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. And to begin, I'll ask Mr. Nathan James on our staff will call the roll to establish a quorum. Mr. James.
Mr. Cobbins.
Here.
Mr. Holt.
Present.
Ms. Harpool.
Victoria Harpole, designee for Dr. Stephen Gentile.
Mr. Jensen. Mrs. Kolb.
Here.
Mrs. Maxwell.
Here.
Mrs. McInturf.
Here.
Mr. Mullenhour.
Here.
Ms. Sapp.
Here.
Mr. Wells.
Here.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to say you have 100% attendance today.
It's awesome. I declare then a quorum is present and we are duly convened. TCA 49-6-1004 requires a moment of silence at every public school. And I think it's only appropriate that we start our meetings with a moment of silence too, to reflect, to meditate, and it's appropriate to pray silently about the decisions that we make every day. So let's start the moment of silence. Thank you. This time, I want to take a note on the appointment of Honorable Kathy Cobb of the 7th Congressional District. Ms. Cobb has been appointed by Lieutenant Governor and Speaker of the Senate, Randy McNally, to fulfill the unexpired term of Marsha Johnson. Ms. Cobb is a lifelong educator. She spent the majority of her career as a special ed teacher in the Clarksville-Montgomery school system, developing individualized education programs, providing differentiated and small group instruction, and collaborating closely with families and fellow educators to support student growth and academic success. Throughout her career, Ms. Cobb has taught in a variety of educational settings. Her work is focused on advocating for students with special needs, fostering inclusive classroom environments, and mentoring new teachers. She's also served as a special education department chairperson and has trained fellow educators on IEP development, compliance, and best practices. In recognition of her dedication and impact, Ms. Cobb has been named a building level Teacher of the Year on 3 occasions. She most recently served as president of Professional Educators of Tennessee, where she supported educators statewide through leadership development, professional collaboration, and engagement on issues impacting public education. Her involvement with education-focused organizations has included mentoring educators, contributing to statewide initiatives, and supporting efforts to strengthening teaching and learning across Tennessee. Ms. Cobb holds an education specialist degree in special education administration from Austin Peay State University and a Bachelor of Science degree in special ed and psychology from Western Kentucky University. We welcome you to the board and give you the opportunity if you want to say any words.
That really sounded impressive. I hope I can live up to all those accolades that you gave me.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize Dr. Sarah Morrison to give an overview of our workshop yesterday.
Good morning. I'd be happy to. It's great to see so many faces in the audience today. We were really lucky to have several distinguished educators with us yesterday and again today. So I want to first mention the Bradley County Fellowship Group that's with us. Thank you for joining us. We're thrilled to have you. And also some of our Teacher Advisory Council members who were with us yesterday for discussion and lunch, I think are also with us today. So it's always an honor to have some of our most esteemed educators with us for these meetings. Yesterday, we had a very full agenda as usual for our workshop. We started with the Educator Advisory Team and Standards Recommendation Committee leads for English Language Arts standards. That's a key responsibility that the State Board has, which is overseeing the review process for the core 4 academic areas. So right now, we are coming to the conclusion of the English Language Arts standards review, and we had a really interesting and comprehensive presentation about the revised standards that are coming before our board today on first reading. So that was quite instructive and exciting as a former high school English teacher to hear. We also heard from our friends at TARA, the Tennessee Education Research Alliance. I think I got that right. Dr. Amy Owen, who used to actually be on the State Board staff, and her colleague, Dr. Benstead. And we heard about the latest survey results that TARA at Vanderbilt puts out around what educators are thinking about various topics. that come before them in the classroom and in the school. So that was also very instructive and just a key partnership that the board has with Tara. We also heard from our colleagues at the Department of Education on 2 subjects. We heard about the high school and beyond plans and some of the updates and the exciting things that are happening there to support students across the state, particularly in terms of the advising that we know all students need as they're thinking about their future steps after high school. We heard from Marianne Dursky and members of her team about the TISA process and how the shifts that have been made and the student-based funding formula are affecting schools in really good ways, and also some of the opportunities we have to continue to study that. Along with that, we heard from educator and various staff members from Bradford County and Rutherford County. Bedford, I'm sorry, I have my notes wrong. I know it was Bedford. Warren, sorry to miss it. That's his home district. But we heard from those districts about the ways that they're experiencing TISA changes and what that means and where they still have funding needs that often go unaddressed. So that was very helpful to the board as well. So it was a full day. If you were not with us, I encourage you to go back and watch some of the workshop yesterday, because that's often where a lot of the really deeper discussion occurs ahead of our meeting days like today. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Eby.
Thank you. Any other comments from our board members on the workshop yesterday? It was an excellent workshop. I always am amazed at how valuable those are for us getting to learn more about what's going on across the state of Tennessee. So I encourage people to go back and watch the video. I think it was good. I want to remind presenters to identify themselves by their title and position for the record when presenting. Also remind presenters that the use of acronyms or jargon should be explained when used so that all Tennesseans can readily understand the subjects being discussed regardless of their individual background. With that, we'll get into our agenda. Our first agenda items are our public comments. I will recognize members of the public for public comments. Each commenter will be recognized for a maximum of 3 minutes. We'll ask you to come to the podium for your comment. Our first commenter is Zeb Bula, who's an educator who'd like to talk to us.
Good morning, and to everybody, but I especially want to thank the board members for allowing me to attend the meeting, and is so looking forward to speaking to you. I wrote it down. I think I should just read it, but I apologize first of all with my application that you would recognize my California license and let me have an apprenticeship license to teach here in my hometown, Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I lived in California for several years. I had moved from there back here to my hometown in Nashville in mid-December 2019. So in filling out the application to 10 Compass, the 10 Compass website, I misplaced that thought of my 30-day suspension. I wasn't even living in the state of California. When I received the letter that they would be meeting in June of 2020, I responded quickly, and that left my mind. It didn't have any intentions of returning to the state, but if I would have remembered it, we probably wouldn't be talking about it right now. So please forgive me. I unintentionally marked no on my application in June 2025. I had completely forgotten responding to a letter 4 years earlier to the commission in California when they were meeting in June 2021. I left my home in San Diego and moved back to my hometown here in Nashville in mid-December of 2019. So I'm very much disappointed in myself. It didn't have an impact on me because I wasn't there. And even though I responded, it was still 4 years past. So I guess that's my reason for it not being on the application. And thank you again for allowing me to come.
Thank
Good
you.
morning to everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Bula.
All right.
Next, on Organization Administration School Rules 05200102.31, Ms. Lillian Hodges on behalf of Student Led Prayer Incorporated.
Apologize. This is my father's old Bible. Good morning, board members.
Morning.
I'm honored to be here, and my name is Lillian Hodges. I'm the founder of Student-Led Prayer. I'm a professional school teacher, and our mission is to inspire students to pray in public schools under the protection of the First Amendment. I asked the Holy Spirit, what should I say? What should I say? And I have no words of my own to say to you, but I can say that the Holy Spirit gave me this to read to you, and I will only strictly read the Word of God. And this comes from St. Luke 16, chapter 19. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and see Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember thou in thy lifetime received good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence is to you cannot, neither can they pass to us, that they would come from thence. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto them, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded through one who rose from the dead. And my very last verse is Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and all sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire, with burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Again, we are asking for the board to please incorporate into the organization and administration of schools the 60 seconds of silent prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges.
You're welcome.
Next, Amber Hodges.
Hello, good morning, board members. My name is Amber Hodges, and I'm a parent of a child at Tennessee Public Schools. I'm here today to advocate for the inclusion of a moment of silence at the beginning of each school day. This practice is not merely a formality. It provides students and teachers with a vulnerable opportunity to center themselves, fostering an environment of respect and focus. Although state law mandates this moment of silence, many of our children are missing out on its benefits. We owe it to them to ensure they receive this crucial minute at the start of the day. I have personally witnessed the positive impact of moments of reflection. My child participated at a prayer group at the school that began with just a few students and has grown to over 57 participants. This grassroots movement illustrates how much our families value moments of reflection and prayer. It is a time for our schools to formalize this practice. I urge the board to recognize and implement the moment of silence in the Organization of Administration of Schools section, not just as a written policy, but as a genuine practice that is actively upheld, with the administrators and teachers being held accountable. This formal acknowledgement will ensure consistency across all public schools and emphasize the importance of creating a respectful and focused learning environment. Let us work together to support the children's needs to reflection and preparation each day. And just like how we started the day off with our moment of silence here, I think what I'm saying is basically I would like for that to be mandated at schools as well. Although it is part of the policy, I would just love for teachers to have respect so that children can have respect for it as well, so they can get their day started and understand the importance of that moment of silence. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges. Ms. Ariana Rose.
I pray for all the people here and learn about God, and I pray for all my friends and the teachers to learn. And I pray for all my friends and families to learn about God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Next up is graduation requirements rule 05200103.06. Mr. Matthew Harrison.
Thank you, Chairman Eby and members of the board, for allowing me to come before you today again. While you've heard me speak in the past on this issue repeatedly, I come before you today with some new information. Rather than presenting you with facts about why world language education is important, as I did in my first speech, or providing living examples of former students who have benefited greatly from world language education in their personal and professional endeavors, as I did in my second speech, today I come to you with a compromise. This semester in my doctoral program, our professor asked us to research an educational policy, and naturally I selected world language education as my topic. I'll spare you the lengthy case study, but I would like to share with you the results of that policy analysis. While Mr. Eby's proposal notes that only 11 states require world language in order to graduate from high school, an analysis of each individual state's Department of Education's graduation requirements reveals a very different number. In fact, most states have multiple graduation pathways for students, at least one of which almost always requires world language. I prepared a series of documents for you today, which are coming around now. Digital copies have also been shared with Ms. Suppé. The first document provides a report of nearby states and their multiple graduation pathways for students. The second document includes an explanation of a new partnership between Ballad Health, our local healthcare provider in East Tennessee, and the Niswonger Foundation, an online organization serving the state of Tennessee, to bring specialized world language courses to students in the Ballad Health Academy program. Because there's a shortage of employees who can communicate with the large Hispanic population that exists in our area, Ballad asked their students to receive specialized instruction in healthcare Spanish 1 and 2, as opposed to general Spanish 1 and 2, so that their students who will graduate as nursing professionals at the same time as they graduate from high school can also immediately begin serving the large Hispanic population in our region. The third document in your folder contains a list of other potential CTE courses that also connect to world language education and are aligned to the new CTE career clusters. Taking all this information into consideration, my proposal, the fourth document in your folder, is for Tennessee to create various graduation pathways like that of Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, and many other surrounding states, which includes 3 distinct pathways for students. Number 1, a scholarly advanced diploma is designed for students who are university bound, which require a minimum of 2 credits of world language. Number 2, a vocational or technical diploma requiring students to complete a course in a specialized world language, such as Spanish for healthcare professionals for students interested in nursing. And number 3, a standard diploma for non-college bound, non-CTE students. Rather than simply eliminating or reducing the world language graduation requirement, I want to see our state get more creative in their thinking. I want to see Tennessee be a leader in world language education rather than simply removing the requirement, regressing backwards, and diluting the value of a Tennessee education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. David Mercer.
Good morning. My name is David Mercer, and I'm a high school student who has studied multiple foreign languages over the past 2 years, an athlete and a Latino. I'd like to begin with a personal experience that showed me the true value of learning a foreign language. Not long ago, I was sitting in a dentist's office when a woman walked in, visibly anxious and struggling to communicate. She didn't speak any English, and no one around her could assist, but I could, because at this point I'd been studying Spanish for just over a few months. I was able to help her schedule an appointment for her son. That simple exchange might not seem like much to you, but for her, it made all the difference. In that moment, I realized foreign language isn't just about speaking words. It's about building bridges where there would be otherwise walls. That's why I believe foreign language education must remain a requirement in Tennessee schools. When I first began learning Spanish, I was excited but also intimidated. It felt unfamiliar and at times overwhelming. But as I continued, something changed. Not only did I grow more confident, I began to view the world through a broader, more empathetic lens. Learning Spanish, and now also French, has expanded my understanding of different cultures, perspectives, and people. It has helped me connect more deeply with others and with myself. Today, I'm proud to say I'm on track to fluency in Spanish, and this journey has inspired something even greater in me, a desire to explore my own roots. One day, I hope to travel to Puerto Rico to find and connect with family I've never met. Even more, I'm now considering a future in international relations, perhaps as a foreign affairs diplomat, because I've seen firsthand how language can transform not just conversation, but lives. But here's the issue. If we remove foreign language as a graduation requirement, many students may never be exposed to these opportunities. Without that initial push, they may never discover the global perspective that language learning offers. They may never find their voice in another tongue or the confidence and empathy that comes with it. As a Latino who grew up being disconnected from his heritage, I can confidently say that foreign language education is not a luxury. It is a necessity in an increasingly connected and diverse world. It cultivates communication, deepens cultural understanding, and opens doors to future careers, travel, and personal growth. Let us not limit our students to a single language or perspective. Let us equip them to engage with the world, not just as observers, but as participants. Furthermore, if we limit our students to only a singular introductory course, they may not reach the level they want, nor gain the confidence of a foreign tongue. As I said before, at first it can be very intimidating. So therefore, giving that extra push to a second course could allow students the confidence with continuing to learn with their friends until they're ready to continue. Not to mention, without that second course, students may never know about the opportunity for the advanced learning and the opportunity to test out of foreign languages in college, which also allows them to save money and be more equipped to expedite their post-secondary learning. These, among many other reasons, are why I think World Language Department across Tennessee is so important and should stay as a requirement in Tennessee schools. Thank you, esteemed members of the State Board.
Thank you. Carson Shake.
Good morning, board and staff. My name is Carson Shake. I'm a STEM-focused high school student who once believed world language as an unnecessary graduation requirement. Yet upon learning Spanish, I seem to have proved myself wrong. I would say we are all aware of the current and rapid technological advancements taking effect in the world, especially translation technology. Tools like these can be accessed in many ways and can even be quick and accurate, yet they cannot capture the effort, passion, and care behind real communication. Having competed in VEX Robotics for 5 years, I have seen this firsthand in tournaments that consist of various backgrounds, including Asian and European teams. Language is an art. It uses expression to connect cultures and demographics just the same as a painting would. Truthfully, technology has been quickly advancing in terms of art. For example, if you were to ask AI, or in some words, artificial intelligence, to make a painting, it would spew out something undeniably impressive, yet the meaning of an expression comes from the organism behind it. If I were to tell each and every one of you, I love you, it would be polite, sure, but I can almost guarantee it would not mean the same to you as if a close relative would have said it. That is the irreplaceable connection we need in our lives. We cannot expand, we cannot invite, and we cannot grow as a country without expression. We need the arts, we need language, and as far as I'm concerned, one singular credit does not pay the bill. I myself did not discover the wonders of knowing a language and how it connects people until taking Spanish 2. I actually have taken 4 Spanish classes, all honors, and by the second class, my knowledge of tenses within the language tripled, giving me a strong foundation to work off of leading into the real world. I believe this foundation is crucial for long-term memory, one many students will not reach without being required to. So, therefore, in order to optimize potential within students whilst promoting the arts, which are evident to be essential in communication, I further stress my proposal that 1 credit is not enough. So I ask each and every one of you, please keep the 2 credit requirements so every child has the opportunity to strengthen their knowledge beyond wasted potential and discover this beautiful bridge of humanity like I did. I trust in you to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rebecca Brewer.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a student who has studied Spanish for several years. I appreciate the continued recognition of world languages within graduation requirements. The willingness to preserve them in any capacity reflects an understanding of their value. However, I am here today to respectfully express that limiting this requirement to only the introductory level does not serve our students well. When I completed my first level of Spanish, I had learned vocabulary and grammar, sure. I could pass assessments and I could complete assignments successfully, but I could not yet communicate. I hesitated when I spoke, I translated in my head, I avoided taking risks, and I understood Spanish academically, but not practically. At that stage, I had information, but not proficiency. It was only through continued study that would change. In the next level, I began to think in another language, rather than translate. I learned to listen with understanding and respond with confidence. I developed the ability to communicate naturally and respectfully across cultures. That transformation did not and would not have occurred in an introductory course. It occurred because my education did not stop at the basics. This reflects a fundamental reality of language learning. It is cumulative. Each level strengthens the last, and each stage prepares students for the next. When students are required to stop after only one level, that process is interrupted. We must ask ourselves, what are we truly giving students in that case? Are we preparing them to communicate in a global society? Or are we providing a brief exposure that's going to fade with time? Are we equipping them with lasting skills, or are we offering them surface level familiarity? In practical terms, many students who complete only the introductory level leave remembering isolated vocabulary and basic phrases, but lacking the confidence or competence to apply them. Is that the outcome we are willing to accept? For many students, especially those without access to travel or immersion opportunities, the classroom is their only gateway to other languages and cultures. When we limit instruction to the most basic level, we limit their access to that world. In my own life, continued study of Spanish led to international experiences, leadership opportunities, service, and meaningful personal growth. It would shape my confidence, my academic interests, and my future career goals. None of those outcomes would have been possible if my learning had ended at the introductory level. When we require only one level of world language, we send a message, whether intended or not. We tell students that surface level knowledge is enough, that sustained effort is unnecessary, and that mastery is optional. I do not believe that message reflects the standards we hold for education in this state, or at least we shouldn't. Our responsibility is not to meet the minimum requirement. Our responsibility is to prepare students for meaningful participation in an increasingly interconnected world. 2 levels of world language instruction provide communication and competence. They build confidence as well, and they produce measurable outcomes. Reducing requirements may appear flexible in the short term, but in the long term, it weakens programs and restricts student potential. I respectfully urge you to continue requiring multiple levels of world language study. Thank you.
Thank you. Lexi Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Lexi Rodriguez Alvidrez, and before my second world language class, I hesitated to say my name correctly. Growing up in a predominantly English-speaking area, I felt a disconnect from my heritage. After all, despite having bilingual parents, I lacked the tools to truly communicate with my own grandparents. It was only through the requirement of these classes that I gained the confidence to call them, tell them I love them, and move beyond a few broken sentences in their native language. My experience highlights a vital truth. World language requirements are not a bureaucratic hurdle, but a bridge to identity and family. As a 3-sport varsity athlete, a language peer tutor, and a Roan scholar, I see firsthand how this requirement provides a necessary structure for success that students might otherwise overlook. It ensures that all students have access to this critical advantage, not only those who have the extra time or resource to choose it. Research from the National Center for Education Statistics states that by strengthening the brain's executive function and hence enhancing memory, problem solving, and concentration, language learning provides a cognitive foundation that supports all other areas of study. Beyond the personal and cognitive benefits, maintaining this requirement is essential for closing the opportunity gap that exists in our Tennessee economy. Bilingual individuals enjoy 35% more job opportunities and significant salary premiums. Yet removing the language mandates would deny many students, particularly those in under-resourced areas, the chance to develop these competitive skills. Furthermore, because many universities require at least 2 years of language study for admission, eliminating this standard would create a new barrier to higher education. Some may argue that removing the second-year requirement provides more choice. However, Tennessee's current waiver system already allows students, with parent permission, to focus on other electives. The choice already exists. Lowering the standard for everyone doesn't add choice. It simply removes a proven academic foundation for the students who need it most. Language programs are often the first to be dismantled when requirements are loosened, which not only weakens a state's economic competitiveness, but also diminishes the cultural empathy students need to navigate a multicultural world with respect. Ultimately, world language classes teach us the fundamental importance of valuing our own cultures while embracing those of others, starting with the simple, dignified act of saying a peer's name correctly. These courses provide well-documented cognitive, professional, and social advantages that prepare us for the world beyond the classroom. Therefore, I urge you to not take away our classes, our advantages, or our names. Thank you.
Thank you. Maeve Lister.
Hello. Thank you to the board for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Maeve Lester, and I have been learning Latin for 5 years. Having studied a dead language, I can attest to the fact that the value of learning a language does not solely lie in the ability of students to speak with others or have direct interactions with it in daily life. Learning a foreign language helps students to embrace and be curious about cultures different than their own with an open mind and empathy. It unites people across the globe and encourages intellectual growth. Reducing the language requirement from 2 years to 1 diminishes these benefits and is a step in the wrong direction for bettering education in Tennessee. After my freshman year Latin class, I could conjugate verbs and translate simple passages. But by the end of my sophomore year, I was reading Virgil's Aeneid and Caesar's De Bello Gallico. Only in my second year was I able to feel more connected to the world and was I given a chance to connect with the language, a chance that every student should have. On a larger scale, the US is dramatically behind in language education compared to European countries, mostly due to the optionality of foreign languages and reduced language requirements. One way Tennessee can support its students is by encouraging them to explore subjects, like a foreign language, that they wouldn't have considered on their own. Additionally, most colleges in the US encourage or require at least 2 years of a language, and many look for 3 or 4 years when deciding which students to accept. Reducing the requirement will put many Tennesseans at a disadvantage when pursuing higher education. As it is the responsibility of our public school systems to set students up for success and higher education and in the real world, having sufficient language requirements is essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we bring up our last speaker, our policy does allow 10 speakers at our board meetings. I will also acknowledge that if this passes on first reading, we will have a rulemaking hearing, and there's no limit to the number of speakers that can come to the rulemaking hearing. Our last speaker will be Errol Brackman.
Good morning. My name is Errol Brackman. I'm a junior at Hume Fogg Academic Magnet High School. And today I'm here to speak on the importance of the 2-year world language graduation requirement and how lowering this requirement to 1 year is severely inadequate. My first ever world language class was Honors French 1, which I took my freshman year of high school. During this class, I learned very basic language use and structure. My Honors French 1 course was a novice level class. By the end, all I could do was conjugate a few verbs, introduce myself, and talk in very little detail about myself. Definitely not enough to communicate with fluency and precision. However, in my second year of French, we dug deeper into foundations and culture. By the end, I could elaborate on my thoughts, express my opinions, and talk about others, and so much more. That second year solidified my appreciation for the culture, love for the language, and dedication to continue. There are so many high schoolers who just need to make it through the first 2 years to see what the language and culture can do for them. Only taking 1 year of any world language will limit the potential of every student in a Tennessee high school when it comes to world language learning, and it hurts their future education. 2 years in a language shows students all they can do and all they will be able to do if they can continue. For example, I have been accepted into the Sister Cities of Nashville Exchange program on a scholarship to Caen, France. During this exchange, I'm able to stay with the host family, go to a French high school, and fully immerse myself in the language and the culture. However, to even apply to this program, students must complete a minimum of 2 years of world language. It is also incredibly important to note that taking a world language is so much more than just learning another language. It is what fosters a broader worldview in students and helps them gain cultural empathy and connectedness. And what is most important now, global awareness. Not to mention, students who wish to take a more technical path in high school already have the option to fill out a waiver and have themselves exempt from this requirement. The only issue people have with this waiver is the part where students have to sign so they understand they cannot go to college if they choose to opt out of the 2 years. There is no need to jeopardize world language programs and the jobs of world language teachers across the state when we can just change the wording in this waiver. Learning a world language for a sustained amount of time is the perfect foundation for a well-rounded student, a more cultured person. Please give high schoolers the opportunity to see what world language will do for them. Please keep this 2-year world language requirement as a key part of our education. It prepares us to compete in the local, national, and global economy and makes us better citizens of Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of our speakers today. I think it's really critical. The engagement is important. We do listen to students, we listen to parents, we listen to teachers, and particularly our 8-year-old student who came today. I think that takes quite a bit of courage to come and speak before this crowd. I think when I was 8 years old, I would have never been able to do it. So thank you for all coming. I appreciate all the other comments. I feel that we will have a very healthy discussion later today, and I have no idea how the vote will go, but I think we will have a good discussion. Thank you for your input. Next are.
Can I say something real
yes,
quick? So
Dr. Rowland.
I'm sending a note right now to the team to get rid of that language and figure out how we can fix it. Okay.
In the waiver.
Yeah, in the waiver.
Consent items, item number 2, adoption agenda, minutes for November 21st, and School Board Training Advisory Committee. Is there any objection to approving those consent items? If no objection, then they are approved as are. Next are our report items. First report item, our State Board of Education member reports. This is an opportunity where the state board members get to tell what they've done since their last board meeting and kind of give an overview and show the engagement that we have too. So any reports from our board members? Yep, go ahead, Vice Chair Cobbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had the opportunity at the end of January to attend the Superintendent Study Council in the Memphis area and had a great conversation with those superintendents. Have about 5 pages of notes that I'll be sharing with our staff on questions around policy, going through the legislature, some school letter grades, perspectives, the essentially vouchers conversation and how that's impacting their enrollment, and a host of other topics. So that was a great discussion. Also, I had the privilege of attending in January and in February, early February, opportunity to go with staff to talk to the House Education Committee and the Senate Education Committee about the accountability hearings process. We also talked to the State Democratic Caucus about the hearings process and a range of other topics with staff, and received a great training from staff on the accountability hearings process with some very interesting simulation exercises with Mr. James and Mr. Derline, along with the other committee members. So it was a great past couple of months and busy start to the year.
Thank you. Others? Ms. Maxwell? Oh, go ahead. Nathan, do you want to say? Oh, okay. Well, Ms. Maxwell first, then Ms. Sapp.
Thank you, Chairman Eby. I had the opportunity December 5th to attend the annual Excellence in Education celebration in Nashville, where the State Department recognized our 2025-26 Principal of the Year for the state, Deanna Jones, Bailey Station, Colorville Schools. Also, the Tennessee 25-26 Supervisor of the Year, Diana Wood, Pre-K Instructional Supervisor for K4 from Putnam County. Brooke Amos and Sarah Brown and their teams did a fabulous job recognizing these very worthy educators, and I appreciate the invitation. Also, in December and February, I was able to attend superintendent study councils for the Upper Cumberland. Those were very informative, listening to their concerns and needs. And also, I had the great pleasure of attending several things with fellow board members regarding the accountability hearings that are upcoming. Thank you.
Ms. Sapp.
Thank you. Okay, so since our last board meeting, with the help of the wonderful Allie Reed, I've created a program called Student Member Connect. As the name suggests, this organization allows local student board members to connect local student board members from all across the state to share their thoughts that affect education as well as what is going on throughout their districts. So far, we have held 2 meetings with a total of 12 participants. At the first meeting, students shared their input on the proposal to change the world language requirement. And at the second meeting, they shared their thoughts on AI in education. We have scheduled meetings for every month until my term concludes. And from there, I plan to leave a framework and recommendations for the next student board member.
Yeah, right. I think you set a great bar for future student board members. That's great. Other comments? Oh, go ahead.
I left out one thing. Earlier this week, went to Houston to observe the Houston Independent School District and their Destination Transformation Summit that they host each year, where school leaders from across the country come to learn about the approach that they've taken to institute accountability and increase student outcomes. So it was a great 36-hour experience, and learned a lot visiting classrooms to see how they have no F schools in the entire district of 297 schools.
Any other comments? I'll mention some things that I've done. I presented to the Clinton Rotary about basically a function state board and our roles and some current topics, AI and world language are some of those. Also to the Oracle class. Oracle stands for Oak Ridge Institute for Continued Learning. Presented to them. And then we did meet with the Bradley County Fellows this past week and basically talked to them about state board roles and current topics. Participated in superintendent study councils. Ms. Reed and I went down to Dayton for the Southeast Council, and then I do attend regularly the East Council meetings. One thing I did do, and I encourage all board members to do, is I went back and at the end of the year, I calculated the number of days we get reimbursed. Our big expense, our big pay is a reimbursement for travel if we travel more than 50 miles away from home. So I counted up the number of days last year that I spent away from Oak Ridge, more than 50 miles away, which doesn't include the superintendent study council meetings in Knoxville. 74 days I was away from home for that. And I imagine that many board members here likewise spend tens and tens of days. So it's kind of eye-opening to think about what we do and what we do for our students. And we do it for a passion because we have that passion. Any other comments? If none, then we'll move on to the next item, report item, accountability hearings report. Ms. Allie Reed.
Good morning. Allie Reed, Chief of Strategy for the State Board. In accordance with state law and state board rules, the state board's hearing committee will begin its first year of public hearings this March, and the report item on today's agenda includes that full schedule as well as details for providing public comment. Passed as part of the TISA Act, the state board may call for a public hearing any LEA with schools that earned a D or an F on the report card, or a charter school and its authorizer with a D or an F on the report card. And using that authority, the state board approved rules last year to narrow that criteria, which now requires an LEA with at least one school that over the last 2 consecutive years dropped from a D to an F or had 2 Fs on the department's report card, as well as a charter school and its authorizer that similarly dropped from a D to an F or earned 2 Fs. Our hearings will take place in this boardroom here in Nashville the week of March 23rd. Based on the 22-23 and 24-25 report card outcomes, our hearing committee will hold a total of 18 public hearings on behalf of 44 F-rated schools in Tennessee. This is including hearings for 4 virtual schools and 3 charter schools. The hearings are scheduled to last between 60 and 75 minutes each and will be an opportunity to discuss the LEA or the charter school's response to its recent academic outcomes, their use of additional funding through TISA, and the various inputs and decisions impacting student performance. As you may remember, our team started developing our hearing process back in 2022 after the TISA Act was passed, and have since spent countless hours engaging with legislators, district leaders, the department, educators, and community members in its development. Our hearing committee has a large responsibility ahead of them and will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to these public conversations. We're going to learn a lot through this first round of the process, and I personally just want to take a moment to thank our staff and members and all the various stakeholders for engaging with us in this in the last 3 years. The hearings will be live streamed and open to the public, and we will have opportunity for both in-person and written public comments. It's also important to emphasize that the only corrective action that the board can take following these hearings is to recommend that the department require the development and implementation of a corrective action plan or to conduct an audit and investigation. The state board will not be taking any further corrective action against these schools or districts. Really, our greatest opportunity is to have a transparent conversation about how districts and charter leader decisions are impacting student performance at our lowest performing schools. The hearings are also open to all of you state board members in addition to our committee to attend and sit with the committee, though only the hearing committee itself may vote on any proposed corrective action. And following the hearings, the board will be provided with a report summarizing the committee's proposed corrective action, and the board will vote at its May board meeting to recommend those actions for the department to impose. So I'll pause and happy to answer any questions.
You might want to say who the committee is made up of.
Sure. So serving this year on the committee, we have Mr. Daryl Cobbins. He will serve as our chair for the committee, Mr. Bob Eby, and Dr. Ina Maxwell.
Any questions for Ms. Reed? It will be a learning process for sure. And again, our purpose is to be beneficial, not punitive. We want to learn what we can do to bring those F schools up to higher grades. Got any comments, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. I would just add, thank you to our staff, Ms. Reed, Executive Director, and everyone who's been involved, Mr. James, Mr. Derline. This has been a journey to get us to this point. Just going back to when this was handed to us as a duty. A lot of work has gone into it, seen and unseen, to get us a process in place that is fair, transparent, open to the public, and ultimately yielding the accountability and setting the expectations that we have for school districts across the state. We did have a conversation prior to our House Education Committee presentation with a legislator who wanted to make sure that we understood the intent of the legislature in placing this responsibility into our hands. and that we take it seriously, and that we make sure that school leaders across the state take it seriously. So we look forward to that process and look forward to reporting back to you at our next board meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Thanks.
Next item, Local Education Agency Compliance Report. Mr. Skylar Travis.
My name is Skylar Travis, Associate Counsel with the Tennessee Department of Education. Pursuant to the State Board's approval of Local Education Agencies, or LEA's Rule 05200102.01, the department is tasked with submitting to the State Board an annual report on LEA compliance. The corresponding slide deck presentation for this item outlines the background of LEA compliance reporting and the LEA approval classifications for the 2025-26 school year. LEAs are classified as approved, conditionally approved, or non-approved based on their compliance with state law and state board rules and regulations. Early each school year, LEAs receive a compliance letter listing their classification based on their compliance in the previous school year. As such, the classifications presented today are based on state-level compliance data from the 2024-25 school year. The department requires LEAs to develop and implement corrective action plans specific to any identified areas of noncompliance. A district is only classified as non-approved if it refuses to complete a corrective action plan. Depending on the areas of identified noncompliance, corrective action plans may include submitting materials that document resolved compliance or remonitoring by the department to ensure the LEAs come into compliance. It should be noted that noncompliance is identified at a single point in time. Corrective actions identified within these corrective action plans are contingent on the specific area and severity of noncompliance. This results in various levels of difficulty in bringing LEAs back into compliance. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this item.
Any questions? I noticed 3 districts were non-compliant for length of school day. How is that? I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The sort of like I mentioned a second ago, the compliance is taken sort of at a single point in time. So when this report and when this data was, the deadline for this data came in, 3 school districts, for example, had not submitted an approved calendar at that point in time. So after, even though they are marked as conditionally approved for that maybe level of noncompliance, they did come into compliance later by submitting a calendar that was later approved.
So that's a little misleading. It, kind of leads one to think that, oh, they're only going 5 hours a day or something like that. So,
Yes, thank you for the comment.
other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Travis.
Thank you.
Next item. Yes. Please. Fiscal Accountability Standards Report. Ms. Mary Ann Dursky.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Dursky, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Department of Education. State Board of Education Rule 0520-01-02-.133C requires the Department of Education to verify that funds generated in the state's K-12 education funding formula are being budgeted for eligible expenses, inclusive of any legal requirements that restrict fund usage. It further requires that the Commissioner shall advise the State Board of all LEAs which fail to meet these minimum standards by January 15th of each year. Since we submitted the cover sheet to you by the January 15th deadline, we have received an update from the Department of Children's Services. I can now report that there were no LEAs that failed to meet the minimum standards for the 2024-25 school year. As there are no findings to report, the cover sheet will serve to provide the required notice to the State Board. This item is for informational purposes only, and no action is required on the part of the State Board. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dursky. Any questions? Seeing none, Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is annual alternative education report for the school year 2024-2025. Scott Vanderbilt.
All right. Good morning, board. My name is Scott Inderbaum. I'm Senior Director for IDEA and Non-Traditional Education Programs. I'm in the Division of Federal Programs and Oversight at the department. TCA 496-3404 establishes an advisory council to advise, assist, and consult on alternative education. Upon request, the advisory council makes a report to the governor, the Education Committee of the Senate, either Education Committee of the House of Representatives, or the Commissioner of Education on the state of alternative education in Tennessee. This item supports the State Board's strategic focus on engagement and accountability outlined in the master plan by providing information regarding the state of alternative education in Tennessee. This item is for informational purposes only. No action is required, and at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move into the consent items on teacher licensure actions. First item are the licensure discipline settlement approvals. As a consent item, is there a motion to accept the settlement approvals as approved? And we'll have a roll call vote if there's a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wells moves, Vice Chair Cobbins seconds. Is there any questions for our members? Board. If not, I'll ask Mr. James to call the roll.
Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
Ms. Cobb.
Aye.
Mrs. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mrs. McInturf. Mr. Mullenhour. Ms. Sapp.
Aye.
Mr. Wells. Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 ayes.
That motion passes. Next are the automatic teacher licensure actions, revocation, permanent revocations, and prohibitions. Is there a motion to accept those as presented to us?
So moved.
Vice Chair Cobbins moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Jensen seconds. Is there any questions or comments? If none, Mr. James, please call the roll.
Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen. Mrs. Cobb.
Aye.
Mrs. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mrs. McInturf. Mr. Mullenhour.
Aye.
Ms. Sapp. Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
You have 10 ayes, sir.
Motion passes. Next are the teacher licensure discipline actions. There are 7 of those. Is there any request to pull any of those out? Mr. Jordan Mullenhour.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to request that we remove 4C2, Mr. Zebula, for brief discussion.
Okay. A request to move Mr. Bula out. Are there any others that we want to pull out? If not, let's go ahead and vote on the other 6, if that's okay. Do I have a motion to accept the teacher licensure discipline actions for all those items except for Mr. Bula? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Mullenhour moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells seconds. Any further discussion on those 6? If not, Mr. James, you want to call the order for those 6?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen.
Aye.
Mrs. Cobb. Mrs. Maxwell. Mrs. McInturf.
Aye.
Mr. Mullenhour. Ms. Sapp. Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
10 ayes, sir.
That motion passes. Okay, we'll pull out Mr. Bula. Mr. Mullenhour, did you want to have some comments?
Thank you. I just had a question before.
Is your microphone on? I'm not sure.
Work.
There you go.
It's working, okay. Partly out of respect for the fact that Mr. Bula showed up today, I would just like to ask our team one simple question, I hope. What are his options if his application is denied today?
Alex Anderson, Associate Counsel, State Board of Education. Yes, so if
we move forward with the recommendation as is to deny his application. He can apply again this afternoon. There's no prohibition or terms that he has to complete to apply again before we will reconsider it. It is merely just a formality to get through this morning.
Thank you, Alex. And if he were to apply and correctly fill out that application, would today's vote or his past practices of not completing the application correctly have an influence on your acceptance or denial of this new application?
Provided the facts that you laid out, that he does appropriately fill out the form. I have not seen anything in the file that we received from California that would preclude us from giving him a license.
Thank you.
Mr. Holt. One more question along those lines. How long would it take, assuming that he were to, if we were to deny the application today and he were to resubmit, then how long would it take before he could obtain approval of the new submission, assuming it's otherwise satisfactory?
Approximately, if we stick to our standard review of those things, we usually review those applications at the beginning of every month. So assuming that he applies this afternoon, next week we will start reviewing the applications from February, and he would be reviewed at that time. So a matter of 3-4 working days.
Until review or until potential approval, assuming it's otherwise worthy of approval?
Yeah, my apologies. So once we approve or clear a review, it goes to the department, and their system will either, I can't speak to how fast their system processes things, but it is usually a pretty quick turnaround in our experience.
I guess a matter of days or weeks?
Days.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mullenhour.
Thank you, sir. I intend to vote to approve the denial of the application. And Mr. Bula, assuming you're in the crowd here, I'd like to explain briefly why. We respect the fact that you're here today. We respect the fact that you've come and you've explained your situation. We also have to be mindful of the fact that if we were to review and second guess the work that our staff does in making sure that applications are appropriately and correctly submitted, we can find ourselves spending a lot of time in this room talking about which boxes have been checked and unchecked. And I think it's important for us to, speaking to our board members, I would argue that it's important for us to back up our team in enforcing that the applications are correctly submitted. It sounds like from the conversation today, and thank you, Mr. Holt, for your follow-on conversation questions. It sounds like there would be a clear path for Mr. Bula to resubmit the application and to have that reviewed on a timely basis. So I think we can accommodate what sounds like a simple error, and at the same time back up our team and enforce the importance of applications being correctly submitted for review. Thank you.
I like that logic, Mr. Mullenhour. Any other questions or comments? So then we have Mr. Bula in front of us. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of our legal staff for this point in time?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Mullenhour, second by Vice Chair Cobbins. Any further discussion? Mr. James, you want to call the roll?
Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen. Mrs. Cobb.
Aye.
Mrs. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mrs. McInturf.
Aye.
Mr. Mullenhour.
Aye.
Ms. Sapp.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
10 ayes, sir.
Motion passes. I'll move into our items on first reading. First item is standards for school administration. Is that right? Right. Yep. Standards for school administered child care programs 052012-011.
Good morning. My name is Misty Moody. I am the Assistant Commissioner of Early Learning with the Department of Education. I'm here to present to you the Standards for School Administered Child Care, Rules 0520-12-01. Tennessee Code Annotated 49-1-1101 through 1109 requires the State Board of Education to promulgate rules for all school-administered childcare programs. School-administered childcare programs are childcare programs run by public or private schools that provide childcare to children ages 6 weeks to 5 years, as well as programs that provide before and after care for school-aged children in grades K through 12. The standards for school-administered childcare have had minor revisions in recent years, but the most recent full revision was 2018. This item proposes a comprehensive update to the rules to better align with changes in statute and current best practices and to address questions from program directors and teachers. Some changes are, but not limited to, reclassifying the rule as a rule to the state board rather than under the rules of the commissioner to align with Tennessee Code Annotated 49-1-302-I2A. Updating requirements for ratios and group sizes for specific populations. Updating requirements for physical activity and those for staff training, and further revisions to streamline the rule and move reporting and record-keeping recommendations to Tennessee Department of Education created guidance documents. The department has gathered both internal and external stakeholder feedback on these revisions, including input from the department's Child Care Advisory Council. In addition, the state board will hold a public rulemaking hearing between first and final reading of this item to solicit additional public feedback. TCA 49-1-202-12, requires that the department prepare a fiscal analysis of any policy, rule, or regulation proposed to the State Board of Education. This item has no fiscal impact on an LEA. This item supports the state board's strategic focus on teachers and leaders outlined in the master plan to ensure all young children have access to high-quality environments, high-quality adults and teachers, and high-quality instruction. The Tennessee Department of Education recommends acceptance of this item on first reading. The state board staff concurs with this recommendation, and with that, I will take any questions that you have, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a recommendation for standards for school administered child care program rules 05201201 on first reading. Is there a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
Vice Chair Collins moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Jensen seconds. Are there any questions, comments? No questions or comments? All in favor then accepting on first reading standards for school administered child care program rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, repeal standards for school administered child care program rules 05201201.
Chairman and members of the board, I am Misty Moody, the Assistant Commissioner of Early Learning for Tennessee Department of Education. And I am now bringing you the repeal for standards for school administered child care programs, Rule 0520-12-01. PCA 49-1-302-I2A requires the State Board of Education to promulgate rules establishing standards for the child care programs enumerated in statute at TCA 49-1-302-I1. The rules establishing these standards are currently but inadvertently classified as rules of the Tennessee Department of Education rather than the rules of the State Board of Education. Accordingly, this item repeals Chapter 0520-12-01 so that the chapter may properly be refiled as the State Board of Education rule as Chapter 0520-08-01. State Board staff will hold a rulemaking hearing to collect public feedback between first and final reading. This item supports the State Board's strategic focus on engagement and accountability outlined in the master plan by updating its rules and policies to align with state law and policy. The State Board recommends acceptance of this item on first reading. Tennessee Department of Ed staff concurs with this recommendation. And I'll take any questions you might have, Chairman.
We have a recommendation for repealing standards for school administered child care program rules 05201201. Is there a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Vice Chair Collins moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Holt seconds it. Are there any questions? No questions. All in favor then for repealing standards for school administered child care program rules 05201201 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, School and Student Health Services Rules, 05200113. Ms. Lori Paisley.
Good morning. I'm Lori Paisley, Assistant Commissioner of the Division of Coordinated School Health at the department. Chapter 346 of the Public Acts of 2025, now codified at TCA 4950-1605, authorizes and encourages each school in a local education agency and public charter school to keep a bronchodilator rescue inhaler in the school so that a bronchodilator rescue inhaler may be administered to a student believed to be having asthma symptoms or in respiratory distress in emergency situations. This item presents revisions within the existing rules and creates a new rule to develop clinical protocols regarding the administration of a stock bronchodilator rescue inhaler at a public school. State Board staff will hold a rulemaking hearing to collect public feedback between first and final reading. The Department of Education recommends acceptance on this item on first reading, and the State Board staff concurs with this recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
We have a recommendation for School and Student Health Services Rules 05200113. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Maxwell moves. Is there a second? Ms. Cobb seconds. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mullenhour.
thank you. Do I need to defer to someone?
No, Mr. You first, then Mr. Holt.
Just a quick question. To my knowledge, no one on this board has a medical background. I certainly do not. What resources will the team be relying on as this prepares for second reading?
Will the State Board team rely on?
The State Board or department? What are the resources that we're bringing to bear to make sure that the decisions and the articulation of the policy, or the rule in this case, is medically informed?
I appreciate you answering that question because I'm very happy to make you all aware, if you're not already, that we are very fortunate at the department to have our state school nurse consultant, Amanda Johnson. She is an RN and she is on in my division and on one of my teams. I actually asked her to be here with me today because I wanted y'all to know about her and her work supporting schools and districts, but she was unable to be. But her background as an RN and working for us at the department, also, we have a very strong partnership in coordinated school health with Tennessee Department of Health, and they have multiple pediatricians on their staff. However, we have a direct relationship with one that serves in a role that can support this from a pediatrician background. So we will be using those resources, but I think for the rulemaking hearing to prepare, we can use them and our work in the health services component of coordinated school health to prepare for that. But I look forward to getting some good public feedback on this at the rulemaking hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you may have just answered this, but I see in the code section that led to this rule that we're supposed to be in consultation with the Department of Health in developing the rule. So I assume that you all are handling that. That's with the Tennessee Department of Health, both in the draft we have now and in the rulemaking process.
Absolutely. We worked with Rachel Supay, and I reminded Rachel that we have someone at the Department of Health, so she doesn't have to worry about that, and we took care of that for this rule.
Wonderful. And then I saw in the language for the rule, it says that each school is authorized to adopt a procedure to maintain these inhalers. And that sort of jumped out at me because it seemed like sort of a bare minimal level of language that they may have an inhaler. And so I looked at the authorizing code section in the Tennessee Code, and it says that each school is encouraged to keep an inhaler. And I didn't see the authorized language in the code section. So I wasn't sure if there was a reason for the discrepancy. Maybe we don't feel it's our place to encourage, but if the General Assembly has already said that, I wondered if maybe our language should mirror what they have said.
I might defer to Rachel on that since I am not an attorney.
Oh, it's my fault.
There we go. Sorry about that. That's a great question. Usually in rule, we try to use more concrete terms than something like encouraged. We would translate that into legal language, I suppose, is authorized. So it's optional, but it's not required. There might be some reasons why a district might choose not to stock these bronchodilator rescue inhalers, but we can certainly put encourage in. I don't think there would be any harm in mirroring the statute, so we can make that change if that's what the board recommends.
Thank you. I do feel like it's probably appropriate. I mean, language used in the code section, I would argue, is also legal language. And so I think that mirroring it is probably, at least would be my preference. So as not to suggest that we're sort of taking a step back from what the code is suggesting. And then I had a question about in section, so it's 0.063B, which includes what the protocols shall include as a minimum. So number 3 under that is state and federal law. And it just wasn't clear to me like what the protocol is supposed to include state and federal law. I wasn't sure what we were getting at with that.
I want to make sure I'm looking at the correct part where you're looking. Can you repeat the citation?
Yes. So I'm looking at the red line. So it's the new language is in the 0520-01-13-0.06, administration of a stock bronchodilator rescue inhaler. And then sub 3 under that, development of protocols. And then sub B under that, protocols shall include at a minimum. And then 3 under that is applicable state and federal law.
Sure thing. That's meant to refer to confidentiality and privacy laws regarding student education records. So what steps do districts need to take to document and report on the administration in a manner that complies with students' rights under FERPA and state student confidentiality laws?
That's helpful. So I guess my suggestion would be that we clarify that language to say something along the lines of, ensuring that the protocol complies with those confidentiality rules and specifying that as much as we can, like with FERPA.
We can certainly make that more specific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jensen.
I like Mr. Mollenauer have no medical training or background, but I do ask a question, and maybe it's in the statute, I'm not sure, but that we clarify, is there training that's going to, at the school level, who's going to be qualified? Probably more importantly, who's going to make the decision at that level? And I don't need an answer right now. It's just, it's the use of an EpiPen or whatever it might be, that somebody at the school level's got to make a informed decision, likely in a stressful situation. So I just would like some clarity around that as we move forward with this.
Ms. Paisley, you want to address that, or?
I would love to. Thank you, Chairman Eby. One thing that's important to note is every school district has an RN supervising the school nurses that they have. But I want to make you aware of something that maybe you're not aware of. Not every school has a school nurse. And so when you don't have a full-time school nurse in a school, you have to train someone, as you said, that is qualified to do that. But the lead nurse, the district school nursing supervisor, who is an RN, can do that training for the person that's identified at the school. And also our school districts have a consulting physician that signs off on protocols, and they, dependent on their relationship with that consulting physician, may bring him or her in to do training.
And I appreciate that. It's just you might have an emergency situation. It's just making sure that we're asking people in the school that don't necessarily have qualifications. Maybe they've been trained. Maybe what if that person's out that day? Or it concerns me that somebody's making perhaps even a emergency medical decision if somebody's having trouble breathing. I don't need an answer today. Just a concern that causes me a little pause.
Mr. Pay.
I would just add, I appreciate the concern. We did add language to the rule. It's on the last page outlining the training and competency requirements in order for school personnel to be qualified to administer in an emergency. So we certainly want to make sure everyone has appropriate training. And any amendments that, need to be made to the language, we're happy to discuss if you feel it's strong enough.
Ms. McIntyre.
And every school has a first responder team that is thoroughly trained, and they run drills in the fall and in the spring. So it's not just any teacher can administer. So that they're very trained, and the nurses and the staff at the district level also help with those drills.
Good question, discussion. Mr. Holt.
Just one quick follow-up. So, as I read the statute says that we're supposed to develop rules. We shall promulgate rules to develop clinical protocols for administering the inhaler. And I read our rule as saying that districts have to develop protocols, and those shall include certain minimums, including training. And I wonder if maybe, I don't know who should be developing the actual protocols for, like, who is qualified to do it, what sort of training exactly needs to be performed before those people can administer the inhalers. If that should be us, or if that should be districts, or if we should have some sort of, form protocol that gives, using the expertise that the Department of Health and Department of Ed have, just so we're not just sort of telling districts, you need to have a protocol and it needs to have training. But these are what the experts, at least at the state level, say is an example of the type of training, and it should be the first responders who, in the general. Unless you have some reason on a district by district basis to do something else, this is what we think a good protocol would be, instead of just saying it needs to have training and people identified who can be the ones to administer. So it's just an idea to Mr. Jensen's point on, should we use the expertise that exists at the state level to maybe suggest a type of protocol?
I will just add, Ms. Paisley and her team does a lot of work with districts, with school nurses on the ground regarding implementation of these rules. And they have a whole plethora of guidance documents. They have a whole coordinated school health. I'm probably going to get the title wrong.
Guidelines for healthcare in a school setting.
Guidelines for healthcare in the school setting. So our rule is really meant to be the framework, but there is a great deal more detail that goes into communicating with school districts about what this should look like on the ground. I hope that helps.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I just follow up with
Sure.
what was shared with Mr. Jensen about one thing I want to add is a lot of our school nurses, just in reply to what you said, you're actually talking about real life situations that happen in schools. And the majority of the time they may call 911. Even if they use the bronchodilator rescue inhaler, they may still call 911 because they're going to do exactly as you said. They want to take care of an emergency situation. But some of this covers students that have not been diagnosed with asthma. And our students that are diagnosed with asthma may bring their inhaler to school, and that's covered. But a lot of this addresses students that are having a reaction that they've never been diagnosed with asthma. So the stock bronchodilator is there. But to try to speak for school nurses, they're very nervous doing that for a student that hasn't been diagnosed by a medical doctor. And so they would more than likely call 911.
My expertise on this matter extends to my daughter as a school nurse. So
Thank you.
I just know some of the things that she talks about, and it's a serious matter.
Absolutely.
And you've got children that are exposed, diabetics, all of those things. And it's a lot of responsibility. And again, I'm just raising issues that for questions before we approve this finally.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a recommendation and a motion and a second for School and Student Health Services Rules 05200113. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Ms. Paisley.
Thank you.
Next is Education Preparation Clinical Rule 0520020410. Ms. Jennifer Nelson. No, it's not Jennifer Nelson. Ms. Christy Brown.
I'm presenting for Ms. Jennifer Nelson. Christy Brown, Chief Academic Officer of the Tennessee Department of Education, and I'm bringing the revision to the Educator Preparation Clinical Experience Rule. The Tennessee State Board of Education Educator Preparation Clinical Experiences Rule 0520-02-04 outlines the educator preparation requirements in Tennessee and approval of educator preparation providers and specialty area programs. Currently, State Board of Education Rule 0520-02-04-10, I guess that's section 7, states that clinical practice sites may include Tennessee public schools, including public charter schools and Tennessee state special schools, and category 1, 2, or 3 non-public schools. Additionally, the rule states that category 4 and 5 schools shall not be used as placement sites. These categories are defined in State Board Rule 0520-0702. To better align with the birth through kindergarten endorsement, this item proposes to allow the following programs, which are subject to monitoring by the Tennessee Department of Education, to serve as clinical practice sites, provided that they meet the highest level of quality set forth by the Tennessee Department of Education or the Tennessee Department of Human Services. I want to name them now. Public school administered early childhood programs, programs operated by private schools under TCA 49-6 3001 C3I or 49-6 3001 C3 3, subsection 3. And Rachel, you can, I feel like I need assistance on my subsection part there, but I'll keep going. Child care provided by church affiliated schools are defined by TCA 49-50-0801A, state approved Montessori school programs and child care provided in federally regulated programs, including Title I preschools and all school administered Head Start and Even Start programs. This item also proposes changes to delineate school-based clinical mentor requirements between public and non-public settings. The school board staff will conduct a rulemaking hearing between first and final reading to collect public feedback. With that.
We have a recommendation on educator preparation clinical experiences 0520020410. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. McInturf moves. Is there a second? Ms. Cobb seconds. Is there any questions, Ms. Brown? No questions. We have a motion and a second for education preparation clinical rule 0520020410. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I suggest we take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
It is 10:28. We'll reconvene at 10:40. How's that? 12 minutes.
Shut your mic off.
Okay.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Thank you. It's not cold. That's fine.
We're on district and school improvement planning policy 2101. Ms. Ginger Leach.
I want to hit you guys with a couple of
Yeah. Reconvene. Not Ginger Leach.
Good morning, Taylor Reed, Senior Director of Educator Licensure for the department. Tennessee State Board of Education Educator Licensure Policy 5.502 outlines general licensure requirements, including application and duration of licenses, professional development points, and endorsements. This item revises the endorsement section by adding equivalent post-secondary educator endorsements to align with existing middle and secondary grades core academic and world languages endorsements, which ensures that qualifying candidates can obtain the appropriate post-secondary license and endorsement. The Department of Education recommends acceptance of this item on first reading. The SBE staff concurs with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation for district and school improvement planning policy 2101. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Maxwell moves. Is there a second? Ms. McInturf seconds. Any discussion?
Right here.
Oh, yes, Ms. McInturf, thank you.
Once again, I continue to brag on you, but your department has, we were asking about how long it would take for the department to process licenses. And there was a teacher that had sent an email and she got a reply within hours and then another one the next day. So it's just amazing. So thank you for all you all are doing.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to approve district and school improvement planning policy 2101. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I assume you're going to do the next one too?
No, sir, we were, I believe, on F, Educator Licensure 5502.
Yeah, educational license policy 5. We had one for Ginger Leach. I thought you were replacing Ginger Leach.
I'm so sorry. Thought we were
So
next.
All right. District and school improvement planning policy
Yes, we skipped over. Yeah, we skipped.
2101. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
I'm Ginger Leach, Assistant Commissioner of District and Leadership Support with the Tennessee Department of Education, and I'm presenting the revisions to the District and School Improvement Planning Policy 2.101. Chapter 1005 of the Public Acts of 2024 amended TCA 49-6, 49-613 to require the transition of district and school planning from an annual approval by the Tennessee Department of Education to approval once every 3 years. District and School Improvement Planning Policy 2.101 details the requirements for the planning process, including completing a needs assessment, aligning goals and strategies to identified needs, aligning school plans to that of the respective district, and providing responses to federal and state identified areas of focus. This item presents the following revisions. It transitions the planning process to approval every 3 years and requires 3-year goals with annual targets and long-range strategies to define the theories of action for reaching each goal. It transitions action steps from mandatory to only required when identified as necessary by the Tennessee Department of Education and removes many previously included federally or state identified areas of focus that will now be captured in other methods. For districts, it also aligns the TISA accountability report requirements so that we can align the planning and the TISA accountability report components, which is a natural fit and an opportunity to streamline district requirements and is in response to district feedback. The Tennessee Department of Education recommends acceptance of this item on first reading, and the State Board of Education staff concur with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation on District and School Improvement Planning Policy 2101. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Jensen moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Cobbins seconds. Are there any questions for Ms. Leach? No questions. All in favor then for accepting District and School Improvement Planning Policy 2101 on first reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Michael Dearline, Uniform Grading Policy.
Good morning, Michael Derline, Deputy Executive Director of Policy and Research with the State Board. This is the Uniform Grading Policy 3.301, which builds on the Uniform Grading System rule and establishes a statewide uniform grading scale to be used by LEAs for students enrolled in grades 9 through 12 for the purposes of application of post-secondary financial assistance administered by the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation. This item revises the percentage points used to calculate semester average grades for dual enrollment courses, shifting from 4 percentage points to 5. This policy should have been updated following approval of the Uniform Grading System rule during the board's quarterly meeting in May of 2024. I take responsibility for that, so I apologize. But there is no practical implication of this change since the rule supersedes the policy. With that, happy to take any questions you may have.
We have a recommendation for Uniform Grading Policy 3301. Is there a motion to accept?
Second.
Mr. Wells moves. Mr. Mullenhour seconds. Are there any questions for Mr. Dearline? No questions. We have a motion and a second for Uniform Grading Policy 3.301. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dearline. Next is approved High School Courses Policy 3205. Ms. Brianna Summers.
Good afternoon, Chair Eby and members. My name is Brianna Summers. I'm the Director of Policy and Academics at the Tennessee State Board of Education. Before you, I have the approved High School Policy 3.205 on first reading. This policy identifies high school courses that are available for credit in Tennessee schools. Graduation requirements and substitutions are among our most frequent questions that we get from counselors, schools, and districts on how students take courses and how to graduate. As we were working through the revisions from first reading with the graduation, permission, and substitutions policy, we realized that a couple other policies are impacted and we could be clear across the board, both cross-referencing policies so that if a counselor picks up one, they'll know to look at the others, as well as just generally updating courses since we were opening the policy in partnership with schools, districts, and the Department of Education feedback. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
We have a recommendation for approved high school policies, courses policy 3205. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Maxwell moves. Is there a second? Mr. Wells seconds. Are there any questions for Ms. Summers? No questions. All in favor then for accepting approved high school courses policy 3205 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. 2029-30 Tennessee English Language Arts ELA Standards. Ms. Brianna Summers.
It's me again, Brianna Summers, Director of Policy and Academics. Before you, I have the standards we've been working on across 2024 to 2026 on first reading. As you heard yesterday, the State Board of Education is charged to review our ELA standards every 8 years. And this legislatively directed process prioritizes collaboration and transparency, including 2 public feedback surveys, 3 committee meetings, that's looking at each and every standard's contribution to students' learning. As part of this item, you received an executive summary that highlights the changes, and the leadership team of educators from K-12 and post-secondary presented to you yesterday in more detail about those edits. TCA 491312 directs the State Board of Education members to adopt, reject, or make technical non-substantive edits to these standards. After these standards are approved on final reading at the will of this body, we will pass those off to the department, the textbook commission, schools, and districts to do the implementation work. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
We have a recommendation for 2029-30 Tennessee English Language Arts ELA standards. Is there a motion to accept those standards?
So moved.
Vice Chair Cobbins moves. Is there a second? Ms. McInturf seconds. Are there questions? I've got a couple. First, let me say that yesterday's workshop I thought was excellent.
Thank you.
Very helpful. Shows the thorough process that this board goes through and the state goes through and the educator teams go through in developing these standards. And I think that gives us confidence in what we're doing. A couple of questions, though, that actually asked yesterday, but I want to bring out here. Summary made some specific recommendations outside the bands of the committee, such as writing assessments and additional instructional time for literacy. And what will be done with these recommendations that are outside the bounds of the standards?
I appreciate the question. For context for members and the public, the various committees that work on these standards, their sandbox, if you will, is the 113 pages of the standards themselves. But as I mentioned, we can't do this work alone. The executive summary makes a couple different recommendations to the state broadly, as well as districts and schools. We sent the impacted recommendations to the Department of Education, Assistant Commissioner Christy Wall and her team, who has been invaluable, as well as Dr. David Laird, who attended our meetings and was extremely collaborative. So we're grateful for that work, and they've been open to all the recommendations. In fact, Dr. Laird came and spoke to them directly on the spot with very little notice to come to our meeting in a full suit, and they're over across town. So we sent those recommendations ahead of time and are in close collaboration to work on those. And we'll be sure to send the full list from all 3 committees at the conclusion once these standards are passed on final reading at the will of this body. Further, we look forward to doing outreach with districts and schools so that they're aware of the recommendations of those committees as well.
Thank you. And one other comment, the committee talks about by using these new standards, they feel pretty confident that we'll be on the path to raise from the 50 percentile up to the top 10 percentile. And after hearing what they had to say and the reasons why they were saying that, what they've done, they've changed, it gives me a lot of confidence that what they're doing is, what we will be doing is moving in the right direction. And hopefully we'll get to that top 10 percentile. So.
Absolutely. They're the hardest working folks in show business.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the standards? If none, all in favor for 2029-2030 Tennessee English Language Arts Standards signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Again, thank you, Ms. Summers, for your leadership on this. I mean, I know it hasn't been without a lot of effort and time, but it shows.
Thank you.
Next item is Graduation Requirements Rule 0520010306. And now, as I will be presenting the item, I'm going to relinquish the chair to Vice Chair Cobbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Graduation Requirements Rule 0520-01-03-.06. You're recognized.
Thanks, sir. As you know, this rule outlines the graduation requirements for students in Tennessee. You may recall that last May, I requested a study be done on the world language requirements. We put together a state board staff convened a world language working group, and then came back and discussed those in August. And then during the November 2025 quarterly workshop, I presented a revised approach based on that stakeholder feedback. Specifically, this rule revision reduces the required credits in world language from 2 to 1 for students graduating after the 2025-26 school year. Increases the elective credits by adding a new, quote, additional elective credit that's separate but complementary to the existing elective focus credits, and allows a student to take an additional elective either in their area of focus or in another area of interest. It adds language encouraging the use of high school and beyond plans and dual enrollment when selecting and scheduling students for elective courses. It removes the requirement that if students take 2 credits of world language, they must be in the same language. It adds world language as an area a student can earn credits in and the purpose of elective focus area. And it adds language directing the department to develop guidance to support districts developing waivers for world language and the fine arts. Item has no fiscal impact. It does support our overall master plan and the mission of the state board in providing each individual student with options to improve outcomes and prepare for post-secondary success. Specifically, the item supports the state board's strategic focus area of post-secondary and career, that all students are prepared for success in high school, and also an engagement and accountability. The state board will annually identify its rules and policies for review and update based on changes in laws or opportunities to improve outcomes. State board staff does recommend approval of this item on first reading. So for discussion, we need a motion and a second. Mr. Chair, and I will move to accept the world language proposal as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second, and then I also would request a roll call vote, please.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Since through the emails we've received, I think it continues to show a lot of misunderstanding of what my motion proposes. And for that reason, I'd like to spend some time and provide more detail, and also from my perspective of why I think this is the right motion and the right actions for us as a state board. I'll first give a little bit of personal background so people understand where I'm coming from. I sit on a world mission board for Global Community Fellowship. My daughter is a veterinary missionary. She goes worldwide to various places. My son-in-law has dual citizenship, U.S. and Mexican citizenship. And 4 of my 6 grandchildren are being raised in a bilingual environment. So I have no biases against foreign languages. I look at what's important for each individual student. That's my focus. Let me reiterate, I'm not recommending the removal of world language from our schools, only modifying our graduation requirements to provide more options to the students. Our mission is to prepare students for post-secondary success. I think we can all agree how we define post-secondary success today is different than it was 15 or 25 years ago. We now offer CTE students classes where students can have industry credentials when they leave high school. We offer work-based learning now where students can spend up to a half a day out in the working environment. We offer dual enrollment where students can get a head start in the colleges or university track. We have established the middle college program where students can achieve an AS degree 2 weeks before they get their high school diploma. What great opportunities we're now providing our students that we did not provide 15 or 20 years ago. We must be willing to recognize that changes come, and we must change our requirements consistent with those. And we'll continue to present opportunities for our education process. So that's what this proposal is about. It's all about what is best for each individual student. Every student should have the opportunity to take what's best for them. We should not require them to take courses that is not in their best interest. This proposal requires world language courses opportunities, each district to offer world language courses. One of the things that we looked at a year ago, a concern that I had, people said is, if we do away with the 2 credits, some of the districts may not offer world language courses. I believe every student should have the opportunity to take a world language course if they want to, and if that's the best for them. And this proposal keeps that. 26 states right now do not require world language for graduation requirements. Of the other 24, 17 provide as an option. So as we look, and I really appreciate the engagement we've had of our students, I've probably gotten at least 100 emails from students, maybe more than that. You represent 1/10 of 1% of the million students that we represent across the state. So we have to look at what's best for all students. I had a conversation with Chelsea Crawford from Tennessee Can, and in doing that, I looked up their mission purpose. And their mission purpose said, one size doesn't necessarily fit all. In other words, as we look for each individual student, what is best for them? For many of you, world language is what's best, and that's what you want to do. And that's what we heard today. But for others, there are other opportunities that may be better for them. As I say, work-based learning, STEM, CTE. As I look at the challenges that we have to fill the jobs that we have to fill in this state in the future, just in Oak Ridge alone, in the last year and a half, $8 billion worth of investments have come in. One of those companies that's coming in is Arano. It's a French company. I looked at the requirements that they're looking for. They're not looking for people who have French. They're looking for people who have STEM. They're looking for welders. They're looking for business management people. So why shouldn't the students, if that's best for them, have the opportunity to take those courses as they move forward? We talk about competition. We talk about worldwide competition. Tennessee, I think we're more in competition with the states that are around us. That's where we have to, we can't fill all the jobs, whether it's AI in the West or whether it's nuclear in the East, with internally. We have to look around and look at the competition because those states are pulling from us. In fact, Excel and Ed did a study of the 7 states that best prepare their students for post-secondary success. That's our mission, post-secondary success. Of those 7, Alabama, Georgia, 2 states that we clearly compete with for people, Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and Colorado. Of those 7 states, 4 of them do not have world language as a requirement for graduation, and the other 3 provide as an option. Again, one size does not fit all. As we look at innovative school models, yesterday our commissioner talked about that. We talked about high school and beyond plans, of working with our counselors to define what is best for each individual student for their path to success. Again, for those of you here for students, world language may be absolutely best for you, but it may not be best for everyone. So why should we set a requirement when we have the option to provide the others? Some people say, and we heard today, well, you have the waiver. They can just take a waiver. I hope all members of this board read the letter from Dr. Mike Winstead that he put in there, and he talked about that. Why should we talk about a separate diploma? Why is one diploma higher than another because a student decides that they want to take a welding class or they want to take a music theory class or something like that and have to get a waiver to do that? Why is their diploma any different than the diploma of the person that takes world language, if that's best for them? Talk about entrance into the colleges and universities. When I reported last time, I said I thought it was 25% colleges and universities, only 25% require foreign language for admission. I was wrong. It's only 12%, and it's declining every year. Again, if you work with your high school and beyond plans, if you work with your counselors, if you work with your parents, shouldn't that student and the parents have the choice, the options of what's best for them, as opposed to us requiring them to take a course that may not be best for them? So this proposal increases electives for students so they can take another course in another STEM course. Or maybe they're in a STEM focus area and they want to take a music theory class, or they want to take a business management class or something like that that's going to help them. That's what this proposal does. We talk about shortage of teachers. The one area that we have the biggest shortage on right now, percentage-wise, is world language. We have students in Morgan County, they've tried for 6 months to hire a world language teacher. At York Ag Institute, they've tried for 3 years to hire a world language teacher. Morgan County had to hire one out of Coffee County, and they are being presented, they are getting the class asynchronously online. Jamestown, York Ag Institute, they have to take a class with like videotapes or something like that. Is that what's best for those students? When at York Ag Institute, if the governor's budget passes, administration budget passes, it will be the only school in the country that has true farm to table, all the way from growing the crops to the animals, the turkeys, whatever it is, preparing those, cooking those, and taking to table. They spend over half a day in the farm area there. Why should we require them to sit in a world language class if it's not best for them, having to do it by videotape or something like that if that's not best for them? So there's options. What is the best option we have for our students? That's what this is all about. Again, what we want to do, what this board's responsibility is to look at all million students. How can we best meet the needs of those million students? For our graduation permissions and substitution policy that we're going to be voting on here, final, it says our purpose is centering an individual student's post-secondary and career interest in the selection process to promote meaningful coursework that leads to life-sustaining post-secondary and career pathways. That's what this change does. It doesn't keep people from taking world language classes. It promotes it. It adds it as a focus area. But it provides the opportunity for each one of our students to follow the career path that they're looking for.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. McInturf.
I think this is the first time I haven't been able to do a member report of a conference or a meeting I've been to, but I have spent some time reading emails. And I know we only had 10 speak today, so I wanted to make sure that we summarized all the emails that were sent to us. So thank you for all your work on that. So first of all, I have been asked, and some have assumed, that the only individuals opposed to reducing the world language credit requirements would be world language teachers themselves. At first, that assumption may seem reasonable. It's natural to expect those most closely connected to a program to advocate for it. However, as I read not only the words within the emails, but also considered who was writing them, a very different picture emerged. Of the more than 75 emails reviewed, only 12 were from world language teachers. Several others came from educators in different fields, including a librarian, a history teacher, and a math teacher who thoughtfully noted that her own discipline can feel like learning another language. The remaining correspondents represented a wide cross-section of stakeholders: high school and college students, parents, grandparents, healthcare professionals, including an OT, several RNs and a medical doctor, business leaders, higher education faculty, school district leaders, and community members. Most strikingly, out of this entire collection of responses, only 2 expressed support for reducing that requirement, while every other written comment strongly supported maintaining the current 2-credit expectation. This overwhelming imbalance makes clear that concern about the proposed reduction is not confined to a single professional group, but instead reflects a broad community-wide commitment to preserving meaningful opportunities for students. I want to summarize the arguments that were most addressed in the emails for public record. College and career readiness. Respondents emphasized that 2 years of language study remain a common expectation for admission to 4-year colleges and universities, including the University of Tennessee. Reducing that requirement would create barriers for students. Multilingual skills are increasingly valued across industries such as healthcare, education, business, and public service. A business leader noted, "I had no choice but to learn Spanish. My business, my career, and my employees depended on it. It has broken barriers with other people and opened an entire world of possibilities." Also, I heard a lot about academic and cognitive benefits, like several students already mentioned today. Educators and community members highlighted research showing that language study strengthens literacy, problem solving, memory, and critical thinking. Sustained exposure supports broader academic success, including reading comprehension, standardized test performance, and persistence in advanced coursework. Language learners foster empathy, curiosity, and the ability to navigate multicultural communities. Students and adults shared experiences using language skills to assist customers, communicate with patients, and collaborate with coworkers. One registered nurse reflected, "I have been able to communicate with Spanish-speaking patients and families and develop relationships that are not possible using virtual translators." Several students talked about how public schools often provide the only structured opportunity for language learning. Reducing the requirement would create disparities, particularly for rural students or those with limited resources. One stakeholder explained, "Without a clear statewide requirement, access to language education would vary widely by district, diminishing opportunities for thousands of students." Educators and administrators warn that lowering the requirement would shrink enrollment, leading to program cuts and staffing losses. Rebuilding programs is difficult once reduced. Stakeholders emphasize that teacher shortages should be addressed through recruitment and support, not lowered expectations. Many respondents share how language coursework shaped careers, enabled study abroad, strengthened family connections, and provided real-world benefits from workplace communication to translation support and enhanced cultural understanding. One student came up with a solution that would not only allow more flexibility, but also keep the 2 language credits. So I'm just going to read what she wrote. "If the goal is to create more room in student schedules, I strongly urge the board to consider removing the career focus requirement instead. Unlike world language, career focus has little bearing on post-secondary opportunities. Colleges and universities routinely ask about foreign language coursework and admissions and scholarship decisions, but they do not ask whether a student completed a specific career-focused track. In my own experience," from the author, "the career focus requirement limited my ability to explore new interests. During my senior year, I was a 4.3 GPA honors student with 48 college credit hours already completed. I wanted to explore cosmetology courses through CTE, but because I could not complete the full 3-credit sequence, I was not allowed to pursue that pathway. The structure was too rigid to let me try something new, even as a high-achieving student had already exceeded academic expectations. Career exploration should be flexible and accessible, not an all-or-nothing track that prevents students from trying potential interests. Removing or restructuring career focus would open space in student schedules without eliminating a requirement that colleges value and that builds communication skills, cultural understanding, and real-world readiness." Currently, in order to take CTE classes, you have to marry yourself to 3 credits of the same career cluster. She is asking to eliminate that requirement and allow students to have more choice in their CTE decisions, using these classes as true career exploration. As the representative for District 1, I have not only heard from my own district, but from Tennesseans across the state, and the message is consistent: keep the 2-credit world language requirement. Even though I'm no longer the teacher representative, I will always stand as an advocate for those in the classroom. Our educators are in it every day. Their expertise, experience, and thoughtful perspective cannot and should not be dismissed. The voices of students, parents, teachers, and community members alike all make it clear. Sustaining this requirement matters for our students' futures, our schools, and our state. I know I don't have all of the opinions of our entire state, but the sample that I have, they continue to consistently say to keep our 2-credit world language. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Additional comments. Mr. Muller now.
Thank you. I just have a question. So I heard you demonstrate or repeat a number of arguments that have been made by people from all over the state. Do you agree with all of the logic that they applied?
I do. I wouldn't have added it if I hadn't. I agree.
Mr. Jensen.
Thank you for your preparation and being here. This was helpful. Appreciate you giving it to us. I did note in here a couple of things. I had a question: is there any limitation on a student taking multiple years of a language? Elective, there's no limitation. And it seems to me what we're discussing here, maybe if I'm getting this properly, is the maintenance of opportunity or requirement. So there's no limitation. And I hear the argument that it takes 4 semesters to get there. I respect that. But I think about a young person that's fluent, for example, in Spanish, that's in a CTE course. They've elected to go that way. They want to go that way, and saying you've got to take 2 semesters or 2 years of a language. And then I look in the documents you prepared, and in some of the states there appears to be a university track. And so my question would be, is it either or can it be both and? That where the students, there's no limitation as I understand it. So is the 2 years of a language requirement essential to the exposure of a language? I've had a number of language classes, and fluency is a challenge. And I appreciate what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it. But what concerns me is that, are we going to mandate a requirement that is already available as an option? And that's what I'm struggling with, is that we do have students. You go into my district out in Milan or Paris or out there, and you'll have 65% of the kids, 50% of the kids have elected a CTE track. And I struggle a little bit with saying those kids have got to have 4 semesters of language in order to graduate. I think that's really in my mind the question. If in fact somebody's in that high school and they still want to do 4 semesters, there's no limitation, as I understand it. So that's my thoughts on it.
Just for clarification, does 2 credits equal 4 semesters?
It depends on whether you're on a block schedule or you're on a traditional schedule. Traditional schedules, I think, requires. Yeah, I think part of the confusion has to do whether you're on a block scheduling or a traditional schedule. And, some of the misunderstanding too, people say that you can get all these credits, et cetera. Again, that totally depends on what the district is set up on. And in a block scheduling, I think 2 credits is 1 year, but on a traditional schedule, 2 credits is 2 years.
Mr. Molinaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with, I think, repeating a few things, but it's worth repeating. Thank you for those of you who are here today on this topic. Thank you for coming. We have gotten a lot of good comments arguing both sides of this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for leading the charge and for articulating your reasoning. And I think, as was stated in our last, not the workshop yesterday, but the one previous, you've demonstrated your LEARN acronym, I think, in an admirable way. You've listened, you've adjusted, you've adapted. I know that, or at least from what I can gather, there's different opinions of members of this board. And to be very clear, this is a topic where I think reasonable minds can disagree. And we see that kind of playing out today. So I'm proud of all involved for having meaningful discourse about this. I would like to, I think in some senses, deconstruct some of the arguments that have been made or to try to bring some clarity. I do agree with our chairman that this is a topic that has been a bit fraught with confusion, I think, and I'll assume that none of that's intentional, that it's just misunderstandings of terms and how these things work. But I'll start with a very basic one. I've not heard anybody yet say that there's no value in foreign language. Maybe that person exists and they just haven't sent us an email yet. But I have not heard that argument put forth. My own view is I think there is value in learning foreign language. However, to our chair's point, that value is realized differently in different instances and depending on who that person is. Now, I've heard the counter argument, which I think is, at first, it caught my eye. The counter argument is, well, if we're going to do away with foreign language, what about some of these other requirements that we have? And maybe there's some conversation to be had there, but I'll give you just a couple of examples of why I think that argument doesn't hold a lot of weight. Not everybody's going to go to Portugal, and not everybody's going to go to France, and not everybody's going to go to Mexico and name any other country out there. We can accept that, I think. We can agree on that. However, if you live in the United States, if you live in Tennessee specifically, I think we can posture that you're going to have to use math. If you're going to go to the grocery store and buy a can of Coke and you've only got a certain number of dollars, you got to figure out, can I buy that can of Coke? You got to figure out how to budget, personal finance, which is also a requirement for graduation. People need to know how to balance a checkbook. They need to know at least some basics about personal finance. Personally, I wish we had more personal finance requirements. I think it would do our state well. World history or history just in general. We live in a society with human beings where history has demonstrated both the mistakes and the lessons that we've learned over time. I just give these examples of those are all current graduation requirements that I think are absolutely meaningful for every single person who breathes oxygen in the state of Tennessee. And again, I would say that not everybody that breathes oxygen in the state of Tennessee is going to travel to Portugal, France, name the country. So there's not, in my mind, there's not a connection between deciding to no longer require a foreign language and kind of opening Pandora's box and saying, well, we're just not going to require any of these other things that are out there, because I think at least many of the items that we are going to currently hold on to as graduation requirements do impact the lives of people every single day in the state. Another point that I think is worth making is, and this is, again, another one that caught my eye, is that if we don't require this, then is this going to somehow create an economic disincentive to having that resource available to students in schools? In other words, if we're not going to require foreign language, are we going to have situations where students just don't have access because the decision is made that no foreign language courses are going to be offered? That is a possibility. It doesn't strike me as particularly compelling, but I think the bigger point here is if I'm a student and I want to learn Spanish, that might work because Spanish is most commonly taught in our system. But if I want to learn Portuguese and there's not a teacher available in my school to teach Portuguese, then if we kind of go open Pandora's box and we start following this line of logic, does this mean that we need to start teaching every single language that's taught in the world in every single school just to make sure that no kid or child who wants to learn a foreign language, their specific foreign language, isn't found left out? So again, on the face, the argument kind of makes sense, but then when you start to think about, well, if we follow that through to its full conclusion, we find ourselves in some positions that are difficult to defend. In other words, if we're going to commit to teaching Spanish, are we then, because we just want to make sure that a foreign language, that every student who wants to learn foreign languages is able to do so in their particular school, at what point do we draw the line and say, well, we're not going to teach every single language in every single school? I think another example of something that we just have to keep in mind, and our chair pointed this out, and this is not to discount those who've made the investment to be here by any means. I'm not saying that at all. It would make sense that when we're talking about a specific topic like foreign language, that people who have found that to be a meaningful part of their education or a meaningful part of their life period would be the ones who most passionately come forward. I would expect that to be the case, and I'm grateful for that. But we have to also recognize that there's a vocal minority that we appreciate, but we shouldn't take the volume of conversation as being representative of the number of people's whose interests are elsewhere and who therefore didn't show up today. You know, the young man or young woman who's learning welding and whose passion is welding, or whose passion is construction, or whose passion is any number of other things. They're probably not here today. They're probably not voicing their opinion today because they're probably not even aware that this is a topic being discussed, because it's not their passion. If we were removing welding options from schools, I expect that our conversation today would be predominantly with people whose passion is welding. And last comment, the argument of, well, there's a waiver in place, again, on its face, that kind of makes sense. However, when we look at how the waiver is being, let's call it, demonstrated out in the world, it's a disaster. It's inconsistent. It's factually inaccurate. It's been shown to be factually inaccurate in certain examples, recent examples. So I don't think that we can just accept that the existence of a waiver alone is the equivalent of making it very clear to everyone that not that they have to take it or that they don't have to take it, but that they have the choice to choose whether or not to do so for themselves. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Eby. I'm sorry. Ms. Sapp.
Thank you. So I would like to start by thanking Mr. Eby for further sharing your background and like elaborating on that. And I would also like to encourage Tennessee students to consider that as well whenever they're voicing their opinions. In my Student Member Connect program, I have pursued students' opinions, and I've also received several emails just receiving their opinions more unprompted. I would also like to recommend that Tennessee students consider the proposal that Ms. McInturf reiterated from the student who emailed her. But from what I have gathered for my pursuing students, but also them pursuing me, I've written a little reflection. So because my role is to represent Tennessee's 1 million students, I've spoken with several students across the state and gathered their opinions. While many of them see the advantages of taking another focused elective class, the overall opinion towards decreasing the world language requirement is a resounding no. Students value the knowledge they have gained from taking both credits. And many students have emphasized to me that the second credit is what truly built that foundation. Diversity throughout our state and nation is inevitable and unavoidable, and most of the perspectives I've gathered don't see that it is fit to reduce the emphasis on exposure to that. I've also taken kind of a poll in my own school, not just asking the students who were like interested in student leadership, but also the students who may not be originally considered or inclined to reach out, I guess. And many of them who are pursuing maybe a certification in healthcare or in welding also see the advantages of taking both of the world language credits. And so I just like to pass it along to our board, the student perspective.
Ms. Cobb.
Yes, I want to thank all the students who presented this morning, and I think the teacher who also presented. Very well spoken, excellent presentations, and I love languages myself. I've traveled over 17 countries, a world traveler, and yes, I did stumble over a few, especially Russian when I visited Russia. But anyway, the love of language, I also want to wonder, could we, and I heard Commissioner Reynolds this morning say that language could be revisited and revised. So I'm wondering if that could be an avenue that we could go as well.
Yeah, just to respond real quick. So what after, of course, I got pinged by the team, and so it is a district level waiver. They're the ones that write it. So we are actually, Christy Brown has actually drafted a template so that we can do a more less negative waiver to demonstrate, that kids can still waive the world language requirement as needed if that's really what they want to pursue. So yeah, we will be issuing that soon.
Ms. Maxwell?
Thank you. So, again, I appreciate all the comments, obviously, both sides of this question, proposal. And first of all, the rule that I'm reading says, the credit requirement for fine arts or world language may be waived by the LEA's Director of Schools for students to expand and enhance the elective focus. Prior to waiving the requirement for fine arts or world language, the student's parents or guardian must agree to the waiver in writing. So to me, as I think about two students that I know from my district, of the same family, one went on to college, completed her 2 years of requirements, but also graduated with 2 industry credentials. The other child, the decision was made to waive where he could take 2 additional elective focus classes. So I'm thinking, you know, I see the points that each individual has made here. Regarding the waiver, even if it is a district decision, I feel very strongly that we should never tell a child in a waiver or anywhere that they're not going to be able to do something. So, you know, to say in a waiver, you understand your child is not going to college, that's pretty strong. I mean, I would be really upset if somebody told me that, you know, and what right do we have to tell students that and families that? So I do think, I think that I appreciate Chairman Eby's passion for this. I think he has brought to light a lot of things that we need to be talking about. The high school and beyond plan. I think this has been a great recognition of the importance of that and how we need to be ensuring that that's being implemented for every student in the state of Tennessee. And I also have to plug Future Ready Tennessee, the platform. I mean, if we can ever get that off, can we only imagine the advising and the involvement and engagement that we would have in families? I just think it would be one of the best things that we could do for our students. And, you know, I've heard from people, probably some of similar people as you have received emails, but I've heard from superintendents also too that approve of Chairman Eby's proposal. But I also have sat in meetings where the vast number have said, Ina, we don't see this as an issue that we need to be diving into because we can do a waiver. So I just want to share my thoughts again. And I do appreciate again Chairman Eby's thoughts because I think it has brought to the board things that we need to really be taking a closer look at, ensuring that our students are graduating. So thank you, Chairman Eby, for bringing this, and thank you.
Chairman Eby.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Just a couple of comments. If we're saying use the waiver and a student can just say, I want to waive that course, why aren't we transparent? I mean, basically, that if you say, well, they can waive the course and take whatever they want to, then let's be transparent about it and call it what it is and have it as an option, as opposed to requiring someone. And again, if you go back and you look at Dr. Winstead's letter, I have to ask for a waiver of this, gives the connotation that my diploma is less than anybody else's diploma. And that's not true. So why not be transparent then? If you're gonna say, well, it's not, it's all the same, they can just waive it, be transparent about it and just make it as an option instead of doing it. The other point is, I've heard that one comment, if students who have to be in the class aren't in the class, then the students who are remaining in the class are the ones who want to be in there. And that allows the teacher to take it even that much further. So a student, you know, if you don't make it a requirement, then the ones that are in the class are going to be the ones that want to be in there, and it makes it better for the teachers. That's another process.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mullen now.
I'd like to
respond to a couple of things that Ms. Maxwell said. First of all, when you started saying, I'm paraphrasing slightly here, you never want to tell a child that they can't do something that they want to do. You want to give them the option. We were agreeing up to that point, and then I realized we hit a fork in the road. I believe it is both mathematically and objectively correct to say that if we're going to require someone to take something like world language, we are by definition saying also you no longer have that time to then take something else that you want to take. So I would argue that by requiring world language, we are in fact telling kids we're removing other options from them because they only have so many hours. They only have so much time to invest in their own education. And by forcing them to do one, we are by definition removing other options. The second thing that I would point to here, and again, this is just where, for the attorneys in the room, like one word matters. My understanding is that the districts may agree to the waiver. It does not say that they have to agree to a waiver, even if it's signed by the parent, the child, and whoever else. Am I misunderstanding the application of the waiver concept? Is it in fact at the option of the superintendents? I guess counsel.
I'm looking at the language in the rule, and while it does say that the credit requirement may be waived by the director of schools, I can see how it can be unclear as whether that would be permissive or mandatory if the parent and student have both requested the waiver. So I can certainly envision a world where we want to clarify that and make it clear. And I think we would have some discretion as to what that language would look like.
So here again, I would say that this is the crux, I think, of the issue that our chairman was making a second ago. If our superintendents have the option to tell the children, no, I'm not going to grant that waiver because they firmly believe that world language is super important, then the concept of a waiver is not the equivalent of this board saying we're no longer going to require the two world languages. It is not the equivalent. And at the same time, if we say, well, the implication is that they're always going to approve the waiver requests, then we're just doing a bunch of paperwork. Let's make it clear. So I would say, again, just another couple of examples here of where it's super important to understand what are we actually talking about with great specificity. And this idea that the waiver concept is the equivalent of what our chairman is trying to accomplish here today, it is not correct. And I think to Ms. Maxwell's, at least the first part of her statement a few minutes ago, I believe strongly, and I think many people do, that part of helping children not only pursue what they want to pursue, but actually maintaining an interest in continuing to be in high school at all is going to be led by capturing their interest. And in an effort to continue to capture their interest, let's give them the options to pursue the things that they want to pursue and not force them to take classes that they may not want to take to the exclusion of the courses that they would want to take. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We got Mr. Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to be brief. There are really two main motivating reasons for the vote that I'm going to make today. But before going into those, just want to quickly say that I echo everyone in thanking the students and everybody who showed up today, people who have emailed us. I think this is really an example of government working the way that it should. And I'm really proud of our board and of everyone who's been involved in this effort, including Mr. Eby and everyone else. I think everyone has had the best intentions, which is what is best for students. And that, this has been a great discussion of what is best for students. So the 2 points that have been most compelling to me are, number one, we have had this 2-year requirement in our rules for some time now. And the question is, should we decrease it? And in order to do that, I would need to believe that world languages were less important now than they have been in the past, or for some reason we had the wrong standard before. And I don't think that's the case. I think if anything, world languages are more important now than they have been in the past, that we live in an increasingly interconnected world. Others have already spoken more eloquently about this than I'm going to. But that those, not just the technical competency of language, but understanding of others, sensitivity to cultures, and the fact that there are different ways of life and different ways of experiencing the world, that's more important now, probably will continue to be. And then the second is the information that we have been able to glean on what students themselves think is best. And, you know, the data points we have of the emails that Ms. McInturf read through, and I'm not convinced that that's only because they're, you know, like an interest group, quote unquote, that is more passionate about the issue. I think that, you know, with 1 million students in the state of Tennessee, who are all being required, subject to the waiver, to take these courses, that if there were a lot of them who, and I also think the word is out about this, this is fairly well known and publicized, that if there was a large groundswell of students who really didn't want to be in foreign languages and really wanted to take other courses, that they are equally capable of reaching out to us. And we just haven't heard from as many of those folks. And I'm really grateful for Ms. Sapp's work in starting this committee and ability to get more formal student feedback from others and from the data that you have gathered from that process so far as well. And that was meaningful to me. So those are the 2 points that, for me at least, have been most compelling. I think that on the waiver, if we do not approve the proposal, that there probably is some work that should be done on setting what an appropriate standard is. And I don't know who has the authority, the jurisdiction over that, if that's this board or others, but you know, that seems like that shouldn't just be a haphazard process without any standard for whether a waiver should be granted or not, but there should be some sort of guidance and some sort of oversight on how that's applied. Thank you.
Ms. McInturf.
I think the difference between just making it optional and having a waiver is with the waiver, and I've experienced this in the past couple of years, my own student or my own children, when you go into the planning, they told me, they said you can waive the fine art or you can waive the language, but it was, the recommendation was to go on with the mainstream way of doing things. So it's almost, as a parent, yes, I know that I had that ability, but the recommendation from those that were in the high school planning, the best thing would be to do the 2 languages. So I think that's the difference between making it optional and then having the waiver. But I do think that we do need to update the waiver and making sure that's communicated better.
So based on that, my question is why is it that, and as the chair of the board, that I'm going to support whatever decision we make. I want people to know that. But why is it that we, these 10 members of this board right now, know what's best for those 1 million students than to provide them the option to do what they want to do without having to go through a waiver process? It still gives the opportunity for all those who want to take world language 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, or whatever it is. But why is it that we, as board members, the 10 of us, when 43 states in the country have made this decision, you know, why is it that we know what's best for each one of those individual students? That's my question.
Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first, I'll echo what Mr. Holt said about how this is a sign of good government. I've enjoyed the debate and I've learned a lot while we've done this. You know, the part that I don't like about the good government is the fact that we can't talk about this ahead of time and have really tried to learn each other's opinions ahead of time leading into this and understand why that is the law. So, Mr. Chairman, I will say first to you, I admire your dedication to this board. I am usually ashamed that I can't meet your standard of how hard you work and in your passion. So I've worked in and around state government for going on 20 years, my entire adult life. And there's been times that I've been on a side of an issue and tried to get a policymaker to agree with me. And the policymaker would say, I know you're on the right side of this. That's what's best for the state, but my people don't want it. And that would be extremely frustrating for me to know that they chose that route. Conversely, I've been on the other side where I tried to get a policymaker to agree with me, where their constituency was on my side, and they chose to do what they thought was right for the state rather than what their people wanted. So I feel like I'm in that right now, and it's not an easy decision at all. I'm not going to say what I think is right or wrong. I think everyone's vote here, they have the best interests at heart for sure. But I think for who I represent and who I have heard from, I will be voting no on this. The people that I have talked to, I don't like the language of the waiver at all. But I do lean that is a safety mechanism to allow me to vote no. I say it again, Mr. Chairman, I respect you so much. I consider you one of my great friends, and I hate to disagree with you on this.
Further comment? So I have one question. Where is the department on this particular item?
We don't have an official position. I don't have a vote on this board. So I would just say philosophically, personally, I've never believed in pushing things that are going to eliminate opportunities for students, regardless, because we can say, well, a kid's going to go a CTE pathway. They don't need it. Well, again, who's that to say that that is a determination that that's not at some later date going to be an advantage to them? And if you take that away from them, that potentially limits their opportunity or even their vision for who they could be later on. So again, that is my personal opinion. I'm not a voting board member. And we do not have a position because it is, you all are the policymaking folks. So, and we're going to fix the guidance language for school districts.
Yeah, thank you. So, so I've had a lot of conversation about this item back in my district, particularly with a group of superintendents just roughly a month ago. And I've read all the emails and, thought a lot about this particular item. And one of the central questions that I thought through in my mind was the why. So why do we have 2 credits? Well, I presume it is because that is a standard or an expectation that we have, that students come out with an appreciation of foreign culture, foreign people, through the foreign language. And that expectation, in my mind, is about citizenship. It's not necessarily about a job. It's not necessarily about traveling to a foreign country, but it's more about understanding the other person. And understanding the other person, whoever they are, wherever they come from, foreign or domestic, is of value as a human being, as a citizen, where you work, where you live, how you raise your children, what you teach them, what you bestow upon them in terms of values. And so I view this much more dynamic than just learning a language and learning how to speak a language. And so similarly, as we applauded yesterday the English Language Arts Standards Review process, which set forth a certain set of expectations that we expect from students across Tennessee, which is our charge to do in making decisions for the 1 million students across Tennessee. We applauded that committee's commitment to raising the bar for Tennessee to put us in a better place as a state. We also applauded their ability to clarify things that needed to be clarified, as well as removing ambiguity from those standards. And so I view this through that same lens, that the expectation is there to produce students that go out to be good citizens and good human beings. And our charge as policymakers is to remove the ambiguity, provide clarity, and the flexibility that exists today can be fixed through policy. If we wanted to create a standard waiver that had to be utilized in a standard way across the state of Tennessee, we have the power to do that. We don't have to take a faulty waiver and figure out how to make a faulty waiver better. We have that power. And so I submit that, and I said this when we were at our November board meeting, we can get to the same place that we're all trying to get to. The route that we take to get there seems to be what the debate is about. So for parents to have and students to have the flexibility to say, I want to opt out, that exists today. We can fix it, we can make it right, we can make it standardized, and we can make it rigid enough where it's not just a superintendent saying you can do it or you can't do it. So we have the ability to, through policy, to repair those things and present students with the flexibility to go whatever direction they want to go, and parents to sign off on that. And that student goes forward with their academic success to pursue whatever route they want to. And those who want to pursue the foreign language experience still have that opportunity to do that. So I leave that as my opinion and perspective on this, and appreciate our chairman's leadership, because all of these thoughts, opinions, perspectives have come about through this process that he has led. And I applaud everyone for the diligence that they've applied in letting their voices be heard. I'll say to the young people here today, you have been exemplary in presenting your opinion and perspective. You're doing it now on this particular world language option, but don't let it end there. You now have a skill, you now have an ability that can be applied in any issue that you see that needs to be addressed in your community and beyond. So thank you for being here today, and look forward to the ultimate outcome of this decision. Mr. Molyneux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was well said. I'd like to respond to a couple comments, but first I want to put our legal counsel, Rachel Soupe, on notice. I'm going to ask a question here in a second with respect to the extent to which we can, either in the future or even today, move to require that a waiver is, first of all, standardized, secondly, and then to what extent can the waiver simply be an opt-out option? In other words, it's no longer at the discretion of a superintendent, because we may have superintendents that never approve waivers. So I'd like to ask that question here in just a minute. Great comments. I agree with you that this is more than a conversation about jobs. I agree with you 100% that it's more than just a conversation about world travel, and more than just coming to know a language. I agree with you also that a big piece of this is richness of citizenship that goes beyond whatever life each of us are living. In other words, beyond our own experiences in our local area, et cetera, et cetera. The heavy weight on the scale for me, though, and I would suggest to everybody in this room as you look around, there is a significant demographic of stakeholders that are subject to this conversation today that are, I'm pretty sure, are not represented at all in this current room. And that is the people who are trying to put food on the table. It is the approximately 15% of Tennesseans that live at or below the poverty level. It is the approximately additional 30% of households that are not technically below the poverty level, but because of the number of children they may be trying to support, et cetera, are having a hard time making ends meet. I don't believe that that stakeholder group is represented well in this population here. So on the one hand, I agree, it's about citizenship, but there are people who will be impacted by this decision today who desperately need to put food on their table and who desperately need that job. And I don't believe that forcing them, unless they happen to even know that a waiver exists, forcing them to spend many hours in their high school career learning foreign languages when they could be applying that time to preparing themselves to put food on their own table and to put food on the table for their own children. I don't believe that that we should remove that option from them today. Turning to Ms. Supay, is there an option to what extent could we move today or in the future to either require a standardization of that form, or even go so far as to say, if the form is filled out and the parents sign it and the student signs it, then it's simply an opt-out and they don't have to take the foreign language, even if the superintendent disagrees?
That's a great question. I think the consensus, I imagine, would be that regardless of whatever the outcome of the vote, it is language regarding the waiver that should be clarified for the sake of students, parents, and the directors who have to make these decisions. I imagine would like some clarity as well. The current wording says that the director of schools may waive the requirement to expand and enhance the elective focus. I interpret that to mean that unless they're denying it because they feel it would not expand or enhance the elective focus, there's really no other reason they should be denying it. But I do think if a student is in one school district versus another, we want to make sure there's consistency in how it's responded to if they were to submit a waiver request. And I think it's only fair to students and parents to have an understanding that when they submit this waiver request, what are the factors that the director of schools is going to consider in making the determination? And I think the more that we can standardize it at the state level to make it clear to directors what they should be taking into consideration when making these decisions versus what they cannot be taking into consideration, right? We don't want it to be just a person's personal feelings on the topic. We want it to be for the purpose of expanding and enhancing the elective focus. And outside of doing that, it doesn't seem like it would be in compliance with the intent of that rule to be able to deny it for a subjective reason. So I do think we have the ability in rule to clarify what should be taken into consideration when a waiver request comes in, and what are the allowable bases for denying a waiver request. And I think that would be for this board to determine, what should a director of schools consider. I think if you want to, you do have the option to make it more of an opt-out where it removes the subjectivity. So if you wanted to amend the rule to say, if this is submitted and signed by the parent and is being requested to expand and enhance the elective focus, the director of schools has to grant it. So I think we have a lot of flexibility to discuss and shape what that would look like. And I hope that answers it. But you can follow up. I'm happy to provide more clarity.
Thank you. Thank you. That does answer my question. I'd like to think on that I'd like to think on your response a little bit, so I'll cede the floor.
Okay, final comment from Mr. Eby.
One thing with regard to that waiver, the current rule thinks it's under certain circumstances, which is very ambiguous and not defined. And that's what got us into the problems that we're into right now, the different definitions by each district. If we go with this, I think it's critical that the options are provided to the students, that they can take other courses and not have a diploma that has been decreased in value than a standard diploma.
Mr. Jensen.
Just one comment on somebody said we have 2-year or 2, whatever it is, requirements that's got a history. But somebody in our place years ago, whatever, decided that's what it was going to be. They also put in the waiver. So while historically there's the 2 requirements, there's also a waiver there. And it seems to me that is a big question, is how do we clarify that so that there's not confusion, and probably more importantly that, as we said, that people that feel beyond that they should be able to get out, can do it without it becoming an issue. And how many school districts do we have? Yeah, so in 127 districts, that is interpreted at that ground level in a way that is not consistent across the state. So I don't know if we can amend that at this moment, but that seems like, after all this discussion, that seems to be a good conclusion, or it could be a good conclusion.
Mr. Mullenhour.
From a I guess a technical perspective, Mr. James, if one were to want to propose to simply change the word from may to shall, is that something that we could procedurally do today? And how would that proposal be made, either in conjunction with the current motion or subsequent to?
So are you asking, can you reconstruct this item into, in other words, strike all the language that's in there and simply make it a change to the waiver to reconstruct the waiver as not being an optional item, right? So you're talking about a motion to substitute for the proposal in front of us, and to replace it with a motion to, or I'm sorry, and replace that with a change to the rule, which would do nothing more than outline the specific criteria that a superintendent must follow. Is that right?
I'm envisioning that there could be a few different ways that this could be done. One being, we vote on this. Let's assume for just a moment that it doesn't prevail, that the motion does not prevail. One option would be I could subsequently make a motion to change the language of the current rule from that term may to shall, and then presumably leave it up to the department and the state board to work out the technicalities of the form itself. I'm not sure that the board would have to vote on how that form is presented. Another option might be to, in fact, attempt to amend the current motion. I'm not sure which of those would be the easiest or most clear to all involved, but I'm just trying to understand. But basically, to the board, what I'm suggesting here is, I do respect everything that's been said here. I think it's been some absolutely fantastic insight shared today. I'm seeing potentially that there's a place where we could go here that arrives at where all of us are trying to swim, which is to say, hey, we're not going to change the world language requirement from 2 to 1, but we are going to address this waiver concept that has, to Mr. Holt's point, has been around for a very long time, and the point that Mr. Jensen made has been around a very long time. We're going to both clarify and remove the potential for widely varying outcomes across across districts and simply say, if a child elects to opt out, here's the form to do it. The parent has to sign, child has to sign, whatever the current requirements are, but it's no longer at the discretion of the superintendent for reasons that we don't know to decide whether or not to grant it in one case and not grant it in the other. It's simply the ability for both a parent or a guardian and the child to elect to opt out. I'm suggesting that that might be a path that we could take today that finds the right balance of all the different conversations that we've been having. So I'm asking you, Mr. James,
So-
technically, how might that be done?
Well, there you go.
Sorry, I've been trying to stay quiet. I must say, I've never been more proud of our board than today. This is just the epitome of thoughtful policymaking playing out. So I hope people are paying attention. Y'all are wonderful. I think my opinion, I would defer to Ms. Supay as our general counsel to suggest otherwise if I'm wrong. But I think because of the item and the complexity of various places that would need to be edited to make what you just suggested, Mr. Mullenhour, true, we would want to bring it back in May on first reading if it fails today. I think it will be hard. It's not as a matter of just changing one word. There's a number of things in that red line that would need to be adjusted to bring to fruition what you described, which I do think is often, or what I'm hearing many members say. But Ms. Supay, please weigh in if you feel differently. I just think it would need to come back probably with a revision on first reading.
No, I do think I would agree with Dr. Morrison. You know, certainly it can be changed from may to shall if that is the will of the board. But there are, you know, other pieces of language that would have, you know, trickle down effects that we might want to look at too. And I think if you all felt you needed to take more time to think through what the language should look like based on the discussion you've had today, you know, there would be no harm in bringing it back in May with language that addresses the waiver issue more clearly.
And that makes sense. And I've not studied all of the language with this concept in mind today. And so I do understand the wisdom of making sure that we get it right. It may not be as simple as changing one word. On the other hand, we have a lot of recency around this conversation. You know, we're all informed today. We've had great conversations. We've learned a lot. And, you know, if we bring this up again in a few months from now, we're going to have to regurgitate a lot of this to try to get where we're at. So another, I guess, question for either Ms. Supay or Mr. James, from a procedural perspective, would it make sense then to simply pass a resolution today and ask staff to come back with whatever changes are necessary in order to effectuate the following, an opt-out form? Would that be a procedurally acceptable approach?
Mr. Chairman and members, I would say, like, your technical question is, could it happen that way? Could you simply replace? And while you technically could, it would cause a great number of other problems. It might be easier for you as a member to ask the staff to simply come back with a proposal or to announce to the body after the matter in front of us is disposed of, that you intend to bring some directory language on first reading on a future item. And the reason I say that is that we have to consider also giving notice, right, to everyone. Now, obviously, it is contained within this rule, but it would cause, you know, has the potential to cause some other problems. Whereas what you could do as a member is announce at the end or after, however this body disposes of the item before it, that's your intention as a member, or that you make this request of the staff to put it together for you.
Yeah, and again, I'll go back to just recency, the relevancy of the topic, and recency of the topic, trying to carry that forward to actionable results. I'm also trying to account for being wise and judicious with our staff's time, because there's a lot of things going on, and I would like to at least get a pulse. Is this board supportive of that concept? Because if we're not supportive of that concept, maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't make sense to have our staff work on this for months and then bring it back up again. Whereas if we were to pass a resolution and say we are in support of the opt-in concept, we're not in support of doing away with the 2 credit requirement, but we are in favor of an opt-in form, then that would at least give our staff some direction, and we wouldn't be potentially putting ourselves in a situation where we're just wasting a lot of time. But I would also defer this to Mr. Eby, because this is, I think, subjective.
You're missing a point.
Commissioner.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we're clear, though. There's 2 issues here. So the issue that the student was referring to, and what I was trying to say is that every school district, other than the May, that's one issue, right? The other issue is every school district has their own opt-in, opt-out forms, waiver forms. And so part of the problem that she raised was that the form that they have to sign, I guess in that district, is very negative, right? So that's another issue that we want to offer support to also help. If we're going to create, you know, we can propose a template and then urge districts to adopt that template so that it isn't this negative, if you don't take 2 foreign languages, you're doomed for life, right? We can change that so that it's in a more positive. So I think it would also ensure that we are working together to make sure that this template also fits the need here, so that, you know, I just wanted to make sure we understood there's 2 different issues here. It's not just the May, it's also the way some of these waivers are written at the local level that is also creating some confusion and consternation.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, but if we do what Mr. Mullenhour is saying and direct the districts through rule or policy that they shall accept the waiver, then it's not the district's decision. If we write the waiver in a form that says, you know, my student, I request a waiver from this foreign language class for such and such a reason or something. And I would contend, though, that we need to think about the words that we use, because I don't want to get into certain circumstances. And I don't want to get into a concept that it appears that the student's diploma is any less than the diploma that they have. But based on that, I would withdraw my motion if this board would agree to those concepts and either doing it through a resolution now or whatever. The other concern I have is that, you know, this was going to go into effect next year. I hate to wait for another year, but there is a waiver process for students that they could use this year, as long as the districts understand our concept, our idea, our reason, they'd be more willing to take that waiver process now.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes. So on that suggestion, Mr. Chairman, since the matter is before the body, we would have to get consensus for it to be removed from consideration. So I guess if you are in favor of the item being rescinded, just by show of hands.
Yeah, well,
Does the body consent to the motion being withdrawn, the motion to approve?
Does the body consent to the motion, for the motion to approve being withdrawn? And I guess the only way you can do that is for us to know, is for you.
You say, is there objection?
Is there objection to the motion being removed?
Procedural question.
Yeah.
My understanding is this was moved into the realm of a roll call vote. Do we need a roll call in order to withdraw the motion, or can that be done as a single vote?
Chrissy wanted a roll call vote.
Mr. Vice Chairman and members, the posture of the body at this moment is that the motion to adopt Mr. Chairman Eby would like to withdraw that. Since the matter has had some substantive debate in front of the body, it becomes the product of the body at that point in time. And so by unanimous consent, he can withdraw that, and then it would simply not have had action taken on the item. So the question in front of the body is there objection to withdrawing that motion? And then he can table it at that point in time, since it's his proposal.
So is there objection? It appears there is none. Hearing none,
Then I
so-
request to table that motion and request that we go back and look specifically about how that waiver can be more generally written, and Mr. Mullenhour had some good words and et cetera. I'll turn it over to you.
I would just ask, Chairman Eby, would you consider or would you like to request that this body pass a resolution to direct staff to present a process and form by which there's an opt-out option?
Yes, I would move for that.
Okay, I'm told that a resolution is not before the body and it's not on the calendar or on the agenda.
But we can ask the staff, just like we asked before to have the meeting back in May, we can ask the staff
Let's
to
ask.
develop a resolution and that they would then bring back that we could vote on.
So in deference to your initiative in this whole effort, I guess I would just turn it back to you and just ask, how would you like to present that?
Yeah, I would like to have the resolution to say that the waiver, that.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
Hold on one second. So let's deal with the first motion to table the item. So is there a second for that? Second. Okay. Do we need a roll call vote on that?
I have a question first. Does that mean, like, when we said table, what?
Parliamentary.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What does that mean by tabling it? Does that mean we can, it'll be brought back up again, or if it has
Could be.
potential to get brought back?
Could be, doesn't have to be.
The body could lift it from the table with a 2/3 motion. So that's not like it happened last.
Put it in.
It could be wrong. So.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Let's do a roll call vote on tabling the item.
Excuse me, may I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
If the motion were voted on and voted down today, it could be brought again in the future as well, right? So I think as a practical matter, it doesn't have that.
Yeah, you
impact.
The motion should, if this motion succeeds, we call the roll and 6 of the 10 voting members vote yes. So a yes here is to table the item. Then it's laid upon the table, and to take it off the table in the future would take, I believe it's a 2/3 majority to take it off the table. Now, that doesn't prevent the author from bringing a substantially similar item at a future meeting. Okay, but that item would be tabled, so.
Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen. Mrs. Cobb.
Aye.
Mrs. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mrs. McInturf. Mr. Mullenhour.
Aye.
Ms. Sapp. Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
10 ayes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so the matter is tabled. And so now, Mr. Eby.
So now, what I would like to do, would this be done by a motion or just direct the staff to develop language that waivers shall be accepted by the superintendents and what the requirements are, signed by the student and signed by the parents.
Okay.
That,
Or guardians.
or guardians, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and one other clause, in that the diplomas that students who receive under those waivers is no less than the diploma that students who don't have the waivers receive.
Can you state again what you're asking the staff to do for the record?
Sure. I'd like the staff to develop a waiver language that then we would bring the vote on that would say that the waivers shall be accepted by the superintendents and that the diplomas that students who receive those waivers shall be of equal value and no less than students who receive diplomas without the waivers. Does that sound right?
Okay. All right, if there's no objection, we'll presume consent. All right, so ordered.
Ah, that was a good discussion.
Yes, well done, David.
All right.
Love the accountability hearings.
Are we on the final readings? Where's my,
We are
I'm
on
on
letter,
final readings?
final reading A.
Final reading A, roll call vote, organization administration of school rules. So this is a good one too. 0520010231.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Skylar Travis, Associate Counsel with the Tennessee Department of Education. Ms. Ballard sends her apologies that she was not able to be here to present this item on final reading. For you today on final reading are revisions to the State Board's Organization and Administration of Schools Rule 05200102.31. The revisions to this rule were largely precipitated by the passage of Chapter 235 of the Public Acts of 2025, which simplified language and procedures regarding the use of stockpile days by districts. Those statutory changes and the corresponding changes to this rule did not change the allowable uses of stockpile days, but removed some commissioner approval requirements while still ensuring that districts document their allowable use of stockpile days. Additionally, the revisions removed detailed language in the rule that restated the same language found in statute regarding things like maximum class size. With these revisions, the rule will simply point to the appropriate section of the code. State Board staff held a rulemaking hearing between first and final reading and received one public comment. No revisions were made to the rule between first and final reading. The Department of Education recommends approval of this item on final reading. The State Board of Education staff concurs with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation for organization administration school rules 05200102.31. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Was that Mr. Wells?
Jensen.
Oh, just, you had your mouth over and I heard the voice was, okay, Mr. Jensen moves and Mr. Wells seconds. Is there a discussion? I do have a question. Going back to the public comment that we heard this morning would be applicable to this rule. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. So why would we not put it in rule? My understanding is it's already in law. Many things are in law, we put in rule. So the question is why would that not be appropriate here in rule?
Thank you for the question and certainly appreciate the comments that have been made earlier today as well. In this instance, a need to implement, interpret, administer, or fill in any procedural details regarding the period of silence or prayer that is currently mandated in TCA 49.6-1004 was not identified. And after discussion, we would not want to promulgate a rule that solely restates the legislature's substantive mandate already found in statute.
So the reason is the fact it's already in law, then it doesn't also need to be in rule for the school systems to implement as required by law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Other questions or comments? No other questions or comments. We have a recommendation, motion and a second for organization administration school rules 0520010231. This is a roll call vote. Mr. James.
Mr. Cobbins.
Aye.
Mr. Holt.
Aye.
Mr. Jensen. Mrs. Cobb.
Aye.
Mrs. Maxwell. Mrs. McInturf. Mr. Mullenhour.
Aye.
Ms. Sapp.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman Eby.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 ayes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next is coordinated school health policy 4204, Ms. Lori Paisley.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Paisley, Assistant Commissioner of the Division of Coordinated School Health at the Department. Coordinated School Health Program Policy 4.204 sets forth the minimum requirements for school districts to use in developing their own guidelines and procedures for addressing the health needs of their students to improve student opportunities for academic achievement. This item updates language within the policy to align with statutory requirements and language found in TCA 49-1-1003, as well as to reflect the current practices and needs of school districts and to enhance student health as identified by our content experts for each of the 8 coordinated school health components. There have been no changes since first reading. The department recommends approval of this item on final reading, and the State Board staff concurs with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation for Coordinated School Health Policy 4204. Is there a motion for acceptance?
So moved.
Vice Chair Cobbins moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Maxwell? Ms. Maxwell, second. Any discussion? All in favor then for accepting Coordinated School Health Policy 4204 as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Health Education Standards, Tennessee Lifetime Wellness Standards. Ms. Paisley again.
Thank you. Chapter 224 of the Public Acts of 2025, now codified in TCA 496-1304, amended TCA 496-1304A to require family life curriculum to provide instruction and evidence regarding the positive personal and societal outcomes associated with the success sequence, defined as a method by which a person completes the following in sequence: obtains a high school diploma, enters the workforce or pursues a post-secondary degree or credential, enters into marriage, and has children. Public Chapter 224 takes effect on July 1st, 2026, and applies to the 2026-2027 school year and each school year thereafter. This item proposes a new standard for the 2026-2027 school year to ensure that students are instructed on the success sequence in accordance with Public Chapter 224. Additionally, Chapter 164 of the Public Acts of 2025, now codified in TCA 496-1304, also amended TCA 496-1304A to require family life curriculum to educate students in grades 9 through 12 on our state's safe haven law, which allows mothers of newborns to surrender unharmed babies to designated facilities within 45 days of birth without fear of being prosecuted. Public Chapter 164 requires guidelines and educational materials to be developed and distributed to each local education agency serving students in grades 9 through 12 and to each public charter high school before the start of the 2026-2027 school year. This item proposes a new standard for the 2026-27 school year to ensure that our students are instructed on the safe haven law in accordance with Public Chapter 164. Minor revisions were made between first and final reading to ensure alignment with Public Chapter 224. The department recommends approval on this item on final reading, and the State Board staff concurs with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation for Health Education Standards, Tennessee Lifetime Wellness Standards, grades 9 through 12. Is there a motion to approve on final reading?
So moved.
Vice Chair Cobbins moves. Is there a second? Ms. McInturf seconds. Any questions or comments? All in favor then for approving Health Education Standards, Tennessee Lifetime Wellness Standards, grades 9 through 12, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is Education Preparation Policy 5.504. And Dr. Nelson, you don't have to read the whole cover sheet. Just quickly summarize it. We're kind of short on time.
Sure, absolutely. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Nelson, Senior Director of Educator Preparation at the department. This item presents the following revisions to the Ed Prep Policy 5.504. It provides candidates in an internship or job-embedded clinical practice the limited flexibility to complete requirements in adjacent school years, provided that the totality of the clinical practice must be equivalent to one full academic year. At least 100 days of the internship or job-embedded clinical practice must include direct teaching experiences, and the EPP requests permission from the department for the candidate to complete in the clinical practice in adjacent years. There have been no changes to this item since first reading, and the Tennessee Department of Education recommends approval of this item on final reading, and the staff, the SBE staff concurs with this recommendation.
Thank you. We have a recommendation for education preparation policy 5.504 on final reading. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Vice Chair Covens moves. Mr. Jensen seconds. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify for education preparation policy 5.504, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, professional assessments for Tennessee Educator Policy 5105. Ms. Taylor Reed. Likewise, just summarize.
Good afternoon, Taylor Reed, Senior Director of Licensure for the Department. Tennessee State Board of Education Professional Assessments Policy 5.105 outlines general licensure requirements and assessment requirements. This item amends Section 2 by removing outdated language related to the acceptance of the principles of learning and teaching assessment. This item also proposes revisions to the specialty area content assessments by adding titles for the National Evaluation Series or NES assessments to applicable Tennessee endorsements. These expanded titles provide opportunities for educators to demonstrate content knowledge, to obtain, renew, reactivate, or expand their educator license. There have been no changes since first reading. The Department of Education recommends acceptance of this item on final reading. The SBE staff concurs with this recommendation.
Is there a motion to accept professional assessments for Tennessee Education Policy 5.105? Ms. Cobb moves. Is there a second? Mr. Wells seconds. Any questions or comments? All in favor for professional assessments for Tennessee Education Policy 5.105, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, graduation permissions and substitution policy. Ms. Brianna Summers. Summarize.
Good afternoon, Chair Eby and members. Brianna Summers, Director of Policy and Academics. As mentioned, graduation requirements and substitutions are among our most frequently asked stakeholder questions. So this item, similar to the one I presented first, is just further clarifying things for counselors and local folks making decisions for students. There have been no substantive edits between first and final reading beyond some course changes.
We have a recommendation for graduation permissions and substitution policies 3103. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Vice Chair Covens moves. Ms. McInturk, did you? I saw that smile sign. Any questions or comments? We have a motion and a second for graduation permissions and substitution policies 3.103. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, education preparation providers and specialty program areas approvals. Dr. Jennifer Nelson again.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Nelson, Senior Director of Educator Preparation at the department. I will try to be as fast as I can on this one. This item delivers action recommendations for educator preparation providers and their specialty area programs, or what we like to call SAPs. We have 5 of them, and I'll go through them as quickly as possible. Tennessee State University participated in a Cape State probationary review in spring of 2025. The provider is recommended for full approval, minor stipulations for the initial licensure provider level. In terms of the SAPs, they are being recommended for full approval, minor stipulations, and probationary approval, major stipulations. Those are all delineated in the cover sheet. Tennessee Tech participated in Cape State review in spring 25. Tennessee Tech is recommended for full approval. All specialty area programs are recommended for full approval as well. Aquinas College participated in a state managed review in the spring of 2025. Aquinas is recommended for full approval, as well as all of their specialty area programs. Knox County EPP participated in a state managed full approval review in the spring of 2025. It is recommended that they meet expectation on all standards. So full approval on their specialty area programs. Teach for America Memphis participated in a state managed review in spring of 2025. The EPP did not meet expectations on standards 1 and 5 with stipulations in both standards. All reviewed specialty area programs are recommended for full approval, minor stipulations. Therefore, TFA Memphis is recommended for probationary approval, major stipulations, and the specialty area programs are recommended for full approval, minor stipulations. And last is Lemoyne Owen College. They submitted an educator preparation provider proposal for a recommendation of initial approval. The review considered key components of the state board preparation rule and policy and the literacy and specialty area standards. The review team concluded that Lemoyne Owen College does not meet expectations on the initial EPP proposal and is therefore recommended for denial of initial approval. The Department of Education recommends acceptance on this item on first and final reading, and the state staff concurs with this recommendation.
We have a recommendation for education preparation providers and specialty area programs approvals. Is there a motion to accept? Vice Chair Collins moves. Is there a second? Mr. Jensen, accept. Are there questions?
Question on Lemoyne Owen College. I guess, with their denial, what do they have to do to come back and be approved?
Thank you. That's a good question. They are already working on their next application, so we will continue to provide support for them. There's no timeline. They can, whenever they're ready to resubmit, they are welcome to do that.
I had a question on TSU. It has major stipulations with approval. My question is what's the corrective action process and verification that they have corrected those items?
Thank you for that question. This afternoon, we will send them an email that begins the action plan process. They will have 90 days to, we have a template that they will complete, and we will work with them until it is approved. They will identify the causes for the stipulations, and then they will set goals. And then we will work with them and have monitoring until their next review.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second for education preparation providers and special area programs approvals. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is 2025 charter authorization valuations. Ms. Allie Reed.
Good afternoon, Allie Reed, Chief of Strategy for the State Board. On first and final reading today are our 2025 Charter School Authorizer Evaluation Reports. Charter School Authorizers in Tennessee are evaluated with few exception biennially, and the process includes a thorough review of documentation that's submitted by the authorizer, as well as interviews with school leaders, authorizing staff, and a consideration of any appeals history if applicable. In 2025, we evaluated 3 authorizers: Hamilton County Schools, Knox County Schools, and Rutherford County Schools. This cohort also typically includes Memphis-Shelby County Schools. However, the authorizer received 2 consecutive exemplary scores and was exempt from this round of evaluations. I'd also like to point out that this was the first year that Rutherford County Schools received an evaluation of their authorizing practices, as they now have 2 charter schools in operation in their second year. Excuse me. You are voting today to approve the overall ratings for each of the evaluated authorizers, which includes Hamilton County Schools with a score of 2.71 out of 4, which falls in the satisfactory range. Knox County Schools with an exemplary score of 3.62 out of 4, and Rutherford County Schools with a score of 3.16 out of 4, falling in our commendable category. Before I open it up to any questions or comments, I just want to take a moment to publicly highlight a few best practices that we observed during this evaluation cycle, particularly from the 2 authorizers who received a commendable and exemplary this round. From Knox County Schools, they earned their first score of exemplary and is an excellent model of continuous improvement. Using their 2023 evaluation, the authorizing staff provided feedback and they prioritized feedback from the evaluation report in 2023 to drive improvements. The authorizer has 2 charter schools that are currently in operation, serving just 1% of the district's total student population, yet the district staff is incredibly intentional about their partnership with their charter schools, ensuring that they're treated as equally important and another offering in their choice portfolio. The authorizing staff has done an excellent job ensuring that the various departments within the district that engage with charter schools regularly attend charter trainings and team meetings to align support and streamline district communication. As far as Rutherford County Schools, as I mentioned, they're a new authorizer and earned an impressive score of commendable on their first evaluation. This staff has been really actively engaged and absorbing as many professional development and learning opportunities related to charter schools that they could find, and has formed strong relationships within our authorizing community in Tennessee. The evaluation report highlights several strengths and best practices, including a roles and responsibility tracker that clearly defines expectations for the authorizer and the charter school in serving special populations of students. And this transparency really helps to eliminate gray areas when ensuring students are receiving the resources and services that they need. So I'll pause there. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
We have a recommendation to approve the 2025 charter authorizer evaluations. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Mullenhour moves. Ms. Maxwell seconds. Are there questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Mullenhour.
Thank you. Ally, who on the Knox County team did you interact with?
Several individuals. Teresa Nixon leads that work for their team. But of course, we engage with the superintendent and the board chair as well.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to recognize them for their excellent work. Very, very proud of them. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Terry, wherever you are. Is it Terry or Teresa?
Teresa.
Teresa.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations to Knox County. My question is how do you take lessons learned from Knox County, where they're obviously doing well, and move them to Hamilton County or some of these others to move up?
Yep, we have several different opportunities for authorizers to connect with one another. And as I mentioned, that's exactly how Rutherford ended up in the place they did, because they really took advantage of that. And so all of our authorizing staff members are connected to each other and regularly engaging. I know that Knox County works really closely with Hamilton County and Rutherford, as they are some of our smaller authorizers, and they're regularly communicating with each other and sharing best practices. So all of our authorizers are really comfortable just picking up the phone and asking each other different questions or resources, as well as through our highest performing authorizers, which is the Charter School Commission and Memphis Shelby County Schools, are excellent in sharing resources and advice too.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I'm just curious, how many charter schools do we have in?
We have about 120-ish in operation.
Other comments or questions? I have a recommendation for approving 2025, and a motion and a second, 2025 charter authorizer evaluations. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item, State Board of Education Master Plan. Ms. Allie Reed.
Thank you. Last item on first and final reading is our refreshed master plan that will be in place through 2028 with your approval today. We began a 9-month process to update our master plan last May with a workshop presentation on strategic planning from the National Association of School Boards of Education, in which we discussed current trends across the country and best practices when revising a strategic plan. From there, you appointed 3 of your colleagues, Mr. Holt, Ms. McInturf, and Mr. Jensen, to form a strategic planning committee responsible for overseeing our process, which involved multiple meetings, stakeholder surveys, and lots of really thorough and thoughtful conversations about how we wanted to adjust the master plan that you have before you now. As you read through it, you'll notice there aren't significant changes in terms of our strategic focus areas. We really kept those intact. And most of the revisions live in the expansion of the actions of the board, as well as updates to our goals. You'll also see a larger introduction in the document that is intending to just further explain how we as a state board use the master plan, and our intention that the master plan is designed to highlight key focus areas, but not meant to suggest that that is all that we work on. We know there are hundreds of things that the state board is responsible for, and these are just to focus or to highlight particular focus areas that we want to spend more effort on in the next 3 years. Other revisions were made to closely align our goals with those of our partner state agency organizations, state agencies, thank you, equally focused on education in our state. And so thanks to the Department of Education and your team for your partnership in that, as well as the Tennessee Higher Education Commission for that partnership. At this time, I have asked our committee members if they wanted to highlight anything or share any comments. So I'll just open up to them, as well as happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Holt.
I just wanted to thank, first of all, Ms. Reed for her leadership in this entire process. This is the culmination of a long process that you can't see it here today, but there was a lot of feedback from stakeholders at many instances throughout the process. Members of the committee, members of the board, our board chair as well participated in the process. And I'm really proud of the end result that we've reached. Grateful for our agency partners at THEC and the department as well for trying to ensure as much alignment as possible in the master plans. We want to all be rowing together, and I think we've hopefully achieved that. And then also, I wanted to highlight in the final master plan that we've seen such great progress as a state in growth in reading and math proficiency to the point where there was a push from the committee to have our goals now be above 50% proficiency. And I really think that could be an exciting tipping point. If as a state, we cross over that 50% threshold, it's no longer, we're proud of growing, from 37% to 41%, but we actually have a majority of the students in our state that are with rigorous standards and assessments. More than half of them are at the levels of proficiency. So I'm hopeful with the trajectory that we're on that we're going to be able to meet that goal.
Other comments from board members?
Just
Mr.
a
Jensen.
quick comment. Mr. Holt, thank you for your leadership throughout the process. And Ms. Reed, all the work that everybody's done. I do think it's a document that's, in my mind, how do we broadcast it? What do we do to get it to the Education Committee at the Senate or the House of Representatives or the governor's office or wherever that might be, just so that there's clear communication on that to superintendents of schools. I mean, just so we're not just doing a document and then it needs to be living, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Good comments.
Thank you, Allie, for all your hard work. I feel like this has been something you've been working on for over a year. I love that we all worked together and we looked at the goals, and it wasn't just something that we needed to check off the list because we were in need of getting this to you all, but we really debated and made it what we want it to be. We made the goals SMART goals where we could actually look and see how we made those and what can we do to adjust. So it was a great group. It was a good experience to have. And thank you for joining us in all our meetings.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of joining, I think, all but one meeting, and I was really impressed with how the committee was working, the process that you were going through, like you say, going through each one of those and looking at word for word, what's the right words, what do we really want to do, how do we want to move K through 12, and then the integration with higher ed and with the workforce and all is critical with TDOE. That's critical that we continue to work closely and align together. So Allie, you did a great job of leading it, and the committee was just outstanding. So
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If none, we have our State Board of Education Master Plan for approval for 2026, 2028. All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, that's right. We didn't get a motion. Vice Chair Cobbins moves.
Second.
Mr. Holt seconds. Now, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion carries. That completes our formal agenda today. I would just like to spend a few minutes and talk about how proud I am to be a part of this board and work with each of you and to have the honor to be the chairs. I think what we've done over the last year with regard to this, I think we've demonstrated that we can bring a difficult issue together, that we can study it, we can evaluate it, we can come up with what I think is a good compromise. Sometimes I wish some of our other government officials would do just the same, but I thank each of you for your input and your study and your participation. It's helped me out a lot. Obviously, we thank the students and the teachers and the input that we've gotten. just because we don't agree doesn't mean we don't respect. But I feel positive about what we're coming up with. I think we're moving it in the right direction, and it's something that will be better for all individual students. And I thank each one of you for doing that. All right, any other business?
One item.
Yes, Mr. Collins.
On the way out, everybody hug somebody, please.
Nothing else? Any other business? And I declare the meeting adjourned.
Right.
Let me see if I can get your meeting.